It is Friday Eve. Thank you for joining us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene is here.
Hi.
How are you doing today, Carlene?
I'm good.
Yeah, it's Thursday. It is Thursday.
It's Friday for me. You always rub it in my face whenever it's your Friday. Today is my Friday.
It is Carlene's Friday. Carlene has a busy
miss y'all.
weekend.
I'll miss y'all a lot, but I got things to do.
She has things to do. Hope you have fun. Be safe. But we still have a show.
Yep.
So you're not getting away that easy.
Yes.
All right. So we have a lot going on today. Do we want to get the headlines, or do we want to go straight out to this live event?
Let's go straight to the live. Actually.
Okay. All right. So let's go straight out live to Senator Lindsey Graham out of South Carolina. He is speaking right there. You see him. He is in Tel Aviv, Israel right now. So Senator Graham holding a press conference following his meetings with Lebanese government officials in Beirut and meetings with Israeli government officials in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. Let's take a listen into what Senator Graham is saying regarding those meetings.
You have a very educated population. You have a very influential diaspora. There's two things to watch. The plan to disarm Lebanon, authored by the Lebanese military, comes out next week. I'm looking forward to reviewing that plan to see how practical it is. Also, there's a decision made to eliminate UNIFIL as a UN peacekeeping organization in the next 15 months. Now that presents an opportunity for the Lebanese armed forces to replace a very ineffective UNIFIL and prove to not only the Lebanese people but Israel and others that Lebanon has capability it did not possess before and will. So my hope is that Lebanon and Israel will start talking directly about how to make that transition from UNIFIL to Lebanese military control of that part of Lebanon. If we can pull this off, it's a big win for Israel to have a better partner on their border, and it's a huge statement by the world that we see a new Lebanon. The reason UNIFIL exists is that nobody back then believed Lebanon was capable of policing the South. It's going to take resources and a lot of commitment to build the Lebanese army to the point they can do this. If we cannot reach a peaceful disarmament solution for Hezbollah, then we need to look at Plan B. Plan B is disarming Hezbollah by military force. What's non-negotiable for me is their disarmament. I'd prefer to do it through the political process, where Shias are given a seat at the table and a strong voice in their country through the political process. But allowing Hezbollah to have heavy weapons is a non-starter, no future for Lebanon, and the threats are too great to allow this to happen. Hezbollah has American blood on its hands. I visited the Marine Memorial near our embassy, memorial to Americans killed in Lebanon, the explosion at the Marine barracks, over 200 American Marines killed at the hands of Hezbollah. It is time for Hezbollah to go. They are trained by Iran, they are loyal to Iran, and we're looking for military power in Lebanon to be loyal to the Lebanese people and a good partner to the region. So Israel can be a productive partner in this. They need to start having dialogue with the Lebanese army about how to take over from UNIFIL, and we need to all start talking about Plan B. If we have to use military force to disarm Hezbollah, I think it's in America's interest to make sure the Lebanese army is successful. The worst possible outcome is to take on Hezbollah and lose. Israel has shown a tremendous capability to deal with terrorist organizations and help their allies. By the end of the year, it is my hope that Hezbollah is disarmed. It is my hope by the end of the year that Hamas has been militarily defeated and the hostages have returned home. How does that happen? It is my hope that those remaining Hamas fighters will stop the destruction of the Palestinian people caused by their behavior and realize it is now time to lay down their weapons for the good of the future of the Palestinian people and leave peacefully, turn over the hostages. I hope and pray for that outcome. But one thing to me is non-negotiable. Hamas needs to go, and they need to go this year. Next year, I envision to be a year of starting over again, post-October the 7th. I envision 2026 to be the year of trying to integrate Israel into the region, to build on the Abraham Accords. And the sooner that process starts, the better. It will be hard to talk to Arab partners in this region while there are major military operations ongoing. I will leave it up to Israel to do what it takes to finish off Hamas. I'll leave it up to them regarding the time it takes. My observation is that 26 needs to be the year of having a day-after plan implemented in Gaza, a reformed West Bank, and talking about how to bring peace to the region and build on the Abraham Accords. I am cautiously optimistic about the future of Lebanon. I went to the south today. I was impressed by what I saw in terms of delivery of food. The Kogak commander is one of the most impressive military officers I've ever met. I got briefed by a division commander in Gaza about the military situation. I think Israel is poised to deliver a decisive blow to Hamas. The sooner the better. As to the idea that Israel has tried to starve the people in Gaza as a tool of war, I firmly and completely reject that. I think the problems have been, it's like doing the Berlin airlift while the Nazis still have Berlin. This is very difficult, and Hamas makes it difficult. But I met yesterday with the Prime Minister and Sidney McCain, my dear friend, the head of the World Food Program. It was one of the more productive meetings I've been in. There was an honest exchange between the World Food Program and Kogak and the IDF about what we can do together to improve delivery of food that goes to the Palestinian people, not to Hamas. And I am very optimistic that dialogue will result in more trucks going in, delivering aid to the right people. And I want to congratulate both parties for sitting down and having a very productive discussion. I think it's very important that the World Food Program participate in a responsible way. I think it's very important that the food go to the Palestinian people, not to Hamas. And I'm hoping that that dialogue that we had yesterday will result in more trucks going in under conditions that will that Israel can live with. So I want to thank both Cindy and Bibi for having that meeting, and I'm optimistic better days are ahead in terms of food delivery. So back home, President Trump has proven to be a great ally of the Israeli people. I think he's had your back. I hope that support for Israel continues to be bipartisan. I am worried about European leaders calling for a Palestinian state. At this juncture, I think it emboldens Hamas. It makes the likelihood of getting the hostages back harder. I think it extends the military campaign. I think it's irresponsible to call for a Palestinian state when you have no idea who's in charge, what the boundaries would look like, where the capital would be. Are they still going to teach kill all the Jews? Will it be a demilitarized, or will it have an army? All of that is unanswered, and it has to be answered before you can have a realistic solution. So I will go back and tell President Trump that the operations in Iran not only were militarily successful, they've for the better changed the image of our country in the region, that continue to partner with Israel militarily is in our national security interest. Your success is our success, and we will see where all this goes. But I'm hoping that 2026 will be the year of dialogue and the year of confidence building, and a year that will lead to breakthroughs that were not even thought to be possible just a few years ago. Syria is very much of a problem. The United States has a policy of one Syria with a federalist types of system. I support that policy, but Syria has much to prove to me in the region before that can happen. I support lifting the sanctions, but I want conditions on sanctions relief with a snapback in case Syria doesn't perform. I want to congratulate our European partners today for imposing a snapback on the Iranian regime. That decision was required by Iran's behavior. What will I do next on Iran? I intend to take the legislation that I've drafted against Putin's Russia, putting tariffs on those countries who buy Russian oil and gas and do not help Ukraine, that if you do buy cheap Russian oil and gas, there'll be a tariff on your products coming into the United States. President Trump put a 50% tariff on India a couple of days ago. I want India, Brazil, and China to pick between Russian cheap gas and the American economy to drive Putin to the table. I'm going to take that same idea and apply it to Iran. Next year, I hope to have legislation, if not before next year, that would put a tariff on any country that buys Iranian oil and gas. Any products coming into America would be tariffed if you continue to prop up the Ayatollah by buying his oil and gas. Let's take some questions. Thank you. Yes, sir.
The Arab mediators are saying that there's a deal on the table in which there would be a 60-day ceasefire. 10 hostages would come out in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. Should the Prime Minister accept that deal? And one other question. Palestinian officials said that you were consulted as a part of a reform effort of their prisoner payment system, which is a reform effort they started in February. What's your assessment of that reform effort?
Well, Israel believes it's more talk than action. So I've talked to Israel about it. So I don't know if the good news that was given to me really holds up. As to how to get the hostages out, where you do it, all of them come out together, including the bodies of the fallen, I'll leave that up to Israel. That is a hard decision to make. You know, one thing you don't want to do is drag this thing out any more than you have to, but I'll leave that up to the Israeli government. I think President Trump is going to back Israel's decision no matter what they do. I certainly will too. If they want to do 2 phases, I will back them. If they want to insist on getting all the hostages out, I will back that decision. But my point to you and our friends in Israel, whatever decision you make, we need to have the vast majority of 26 to be about the day after.
What about on the prisoner system, the PA's prisoner payment reform that was launched in February? What's your assessment of that? That you were consulted.
Yeah, but I don't know enough to tell you yet.
Senator Graham, you mentioned this meeting between yourself, Netanyahu, and the head of...
Yeah, Cindy McCain, WFP.
Yeah. What was exactly...
Well, I think they're going to talk about it. I'll let them speak for themselves, but I can tell you my impression of the meeting. 2 thumbs up. Cindy made the point that we're here to help feed people. We want to do it in a fashion that Israel feels comfortable with. We have certain guidelines we have to follow. I was impressed with the fact they provide aid packages to people who have IDs and names. And they actually ask the people, did you make it home? Did anybody take the aid away from you? I thought that was a good process to make sure that Hamas doesn't wind up with this food.
Is it something new? I think.
Huh?
Is it a new method?
No, they do that everywhere. I just didn't know it. So I think that dialogue about how the WFP works was really helpful. I think Israel wants to be able to work with the WFP. I think out of that meeting between Kogak and the people on the ground with the World Food Program here, that they've got a system that I think is going to increase food delivery. I was told before the war there was around 100 trucks a day going in to Gaza. There was indigenous food production that has been pretty much dramatically reduced because of the war, and that 300 trucks a day, according to Israel and I think other people, meets the needs of Gaza and probably then some. You see in August a dramatic increase. I think after that meeting between the WFP and Israel, I think that will be sustainable. I went to GHF, is that the group? I saw what they do. They do about 60, 80 trucks a day. So I'm going to tell my colleagues, what I saw, but I would also like your COGAC commander to come back and tell us what actually is happening and take questions, because there's a lot of misinformation. But I talked to Cindy a while ago, and she was very willing to talk to the Israelis. Bibi wanted to talk to her, and I think it was a very good meeting, and I think it will improve the situation. Anything else? Yes.
You talked about how it's an American interest to see Lebanon reformed and Hezbollah disarmed. How do you think the U.S. should and will support that process?
I think it's critical that we support that process. That failure to disarm Hezbollah not only dooms the future of Lebanon, it creates an environment to make it harder to reconcile the region. So Hamas, I see how that ends. I went to the south. I know how that ends. It's going to end with the destruction of Hamas militarily, or them surrendering and leaving. Hezbollah, a statement was that they should be disarmed. I've yet to see the plan how to do it. I would prefer a political process where the Shia community could convince Hezbollah to lay down the weapons and integrate politically into Lebanon. I'd like to give that, Tom Barrack has an idea, I'd like to give that a chance. I'm convinced without Plan B, there'll never be a Plan A. That the only way you're ever going to convince Hezbollah and others that have been stakeholders in terrorism is to have a credible threat of military force. And if you don't have that credible threat, I don't think you're ever going to get a political solution. So I'll go back to President Trump and say, you aided Israel to eliminate a common threat or reduce the capability of a nuclear-armed Iran, which is a threat to us. You've helped Israel militarily deal with the war in Gaza. You've given them the time and the space to do it. Now we need to turn our attention to the other proxy, Hezbollah. The Houthis, good day for the home team against the Houthis, but Hezbollah is now my focus. They've been very lethal. They have a lot of capabilities still left, even though Israel has, hurt them a lot. So I'm going to go back and tell President Trump, let's talk to Israel and Lebanon about Plan B to make sure that if it happens, they're successful. The worst possible outcome is for the Lebanese army, as part of Plan B, to take Hezbollah on and fail. That can't happen.
There's more discussion now in the Israeli right about annexing parts of the West Bank. What's your position on annexing parts of the West Bank?
Call Saudi Arabia, call Egypt, call Jordan, call the United Arab Emirates, and see what kind of answer you get.
About this Plan B, who is supposed to actually implement it? Israel? The U.S.?
Well, this is why I came. Plan B is developing in front of your eyes here. They're going to produce a plan, Lebanon will, about disarmament.
Yeah.
They made a statement. They're going to follow up with a plan. Well, that plan will be shared with us and Israel. And what I want to do is pursue the diplomatic solution aggressively. I don't want to have a wider war in Lebanon, but I am convinced Lebanon will be part of the solution, but they don't have the capability without assistance to execute Plan B. And I want Iran to know, and I want Hezbollah to know that you're not going to be around next year. Thank you all very much. Nobody got hurt. That was good. Everybody bad names.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. It looks like the shot went out, but that's perfectly fine because that press conference just wrapped up. That was Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican out of South Carolina, holding a press conference in Israel after meeting with government officials in Lebanon. Government officials in Beirut. And also meeting with the Israeli government officials in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, holding a press conference there. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Hang tight. Don't change anything on WCNC Plus. Stick right here on WCNC Plus. Again, we'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene is here.
Hi.
It feels
It
great.
feels pretty good.
Great
It feels
outside.
Pretty,
Great. Is it
pretty good?
warm enough for you?
It's warm enough
You're
for me.
84 degrees.
In the sunshine like this? Oh yeah, I'm an 84-degree girl. That's my favorite.
It is a perfect weather week outside. I'm like, man, it can't get better than this. I just love walking outside and not having like the heat just bear down on me.
Yeah.
It
Doesn't
feels
hit
so
you like a
great.
hit wall. Yeah, like a brick wall. It
we
just,
just
it's
can't
nice.
breathe.
You can breathe. Yeah, it's nice.
I mean, people are ordering. I learned that. So I call it pumpkin spice a lot, just like everybody else. But I didn't know PSL was like an abbreviation. For
yeah.
Like, I didn't know that was a thing.
That's a thing.
PSL.
PSL.
Well, shout out to PSL.
I feel like it's a little warm for a latte. And I mean, I should full transparency. I'm not a coffee drinker, so like
You're not a coffee
I'm not
drinker.
A coffee
Yes,
drinker.
I love coffee, but I'm a minimalist when it comes to coffee.
So like I can't imagine it's 80-something degrees outside. I'm like, let me go get a latte, a warm drink. But
You pour
each
some
their
ice.
own.
Pour it in some ice.
Pour it in ice. Oh yeah, people get iced.
Yeah, ice. Yeah, but no, I mean, but when you think about fall lattes, they're warm.
They're warm.
They're not usually on ice.
Right.
So yeah, it's a nice iced PSL day.
Yeah.
So great day to be outside. I've seen some folks wear the hoodies.
Yep.
I've seen folks wear jackets.
Yep.
Probably could have worn a light.
Did you wear a hoodie
jacket.
this morning on your run?
No, I had a long sleeve shirt though.
Yeah.
And I felt fine. I didn't feel like I was, about to pass
Hot or
out. 'Cause
cold?
Yeah.
Great.
I felt it was
Perfect.
great. Yeah, I'm loving this as a early morning runner, guy who gets up early. I love it now, but when we hit winter, I'm not gonna like it.
No.
It's gonna be tough.
No. It's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be tough. I remember those winter.
I don't remember I don't know how you get out of bed. Like when it's really cold out
man,
to go
those-
and run, move your body in the
those
cold.
runs-
Absolutely not.
My first winter running, those runs were
Rough.
miserable.
Rough.
I didn't even sweat because it was so
I've tried to do morning runs a couple of times. I've done it a handful of times,
Yeah.
and I've come to the
Yeah.
conclusion you ain't gonna see me out there. Nope. I'm gonna be inside.
I'm holding down the morning run
Yeah.
club for you, so I
Good.
got you. I'm doing miles for you, Carlene.
Thank you.
For many folks who got up early this morning or out right now, it feels, as we mentioned, fantastic. Let's check in with meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees with our full forecast.
And honestly, the mountains feel even better, Ben, especially if you're looking for cooler weather. I know we talk about this a lot during summer. Typically, they're about 20 or so degrees cooler than us. Now, when it was 100 degrees a few weeks ago, that felt fantastic in the mountains at 80. But now it's been even better. In fact, some of those high top-level elevation spots, such as Grandfather Mountain, have been in the upper 30s the last few mornings. Now, maybe that's a little too chilly for you, but here in the Charlotte area, upper 50s and lower 60s has been the story the last few days. The mountains look fantastic. This is a live picture here from Beach Mountain. Of course, all of this green is going to be changing over the next few weeks. And as we get closer and closer to November, seeing some fall colors even here in the Charlotte area. Now, the weather this week has been fantastic. I don't think anybody can argue about that, but we're going to get another shot of cooler and less humid air. Heading into tomorrow and the weekend, we're still in the 80s, but it won't, again, as I mentioned before, be quite as dry, but a nice little shot of additional cooler and drier air brings in next week. Now, again, we're not looking at 90s or anything like that, but you will notice an increase in temperatures heading into Saturday and Sunday. So let's look at peak leaf color average dates. So again, up in the mountains, we typically start to see that change in October. So it's getting closer and closer. You can, of course, see those highest elevations between the 7th and the 12th. Eventually, it shifts further down by the end of October as we get closer to Halloween. But most areas in the Charlotte metro don't see that change until closer to November. So even though the official start of meteorological fall is Monday, September 1st, also Labor Day, we probably won't see a lot of big color changes here in Charlotte for the next 2 months. But remember that after Helene last year, many of our mountain communities here locally in Ashwaubenon and Avery, Wilkes County, and of course over toward Asheville area as well, were really getting hit by Helene, of course, and also the tourism aspect on the back end. So if you have plans to leaf peep over the next 2 months, that could be a really great option as long as you're double checking those areas are open before doing so. Now today, of course, we have a few more clouds, but still fantastic. As Ben mentioned, it's hard to complain about the clouds when it's this nice outside. Mostly cloudy right now with temperatures in the mid-70s. We'll see more of the same for the rest of the day. Tomorrow, a bit more sunshine as a low pressure system that's kind of nearby. It starts to pass away, so we're not going to see as many clouds tomorrow. Temperatures again because of that in the mid to upper 80s versus today only at 80. And again, that will probably be the only day that it actually feels like August, even though the dew point remains dry. Saturday, small chance of rain. You saw that green pop up there. It is not a high chance at all. Mostly in the afternoon, pretty typical for this time of year, and then another shot of light rain potential in the mountains by Saturday evening. So while many folks are out and about getting those Labor Day festivities in or just doing errands, whatever you're doing this weekend, it will be mostly dry. But with that 20% chance of rain, I don't want to guarantee that you won't see a single drop of rain because that chance does bump up. Again, that will be present Saturday, Sunday, and then again on Monday before that shot of cooler and drier air starts to move back in. Now, it of course is August now, but Monday does start September 1st. Really excited about a fantastic Labor Day weekend, but it also does start really August 20th starts the busiest 7 weeks of hurricane season. But as we get closer to September and October, historically more active seasons here in the southeast. So there's nothing to worry about right now. Farnon, our storm that was previously out in the Atlantic, has since become post-tropical, but it's a good time of year. I actually spoke with the National Hurricane Center this morning talking about Katrina's anniversary and of course the storm we just had, Aaron. And one of the big things that the Warning Coordination meteorologist pushed is that because we're entering the 2 busiest months, even though we hope that there's no more storms, it's probably one of those times of year that we have to be updating on the tropics every single day. So with that being said, we have a new tropical wave that is forecast to move off the coast of Africa over the next few days. Right now, it has not even left the country, so it's 20% chance of development. But in that same area right now, there are favorable conditions for a small chance of development. Again, 20%. Does that mean that it will come anywhere close to us? Absolutely not. As Africa, of course, we know is about 3,000 plus miles away from the United States. But again, it's something that our team always is keeping an eye on, as again, the average peak, most active weeks of hurricane season are August 20th through October 10th, with the historic peak on September 10th. So here's that 7-day forecast. Really nothing tropical to worry about, storms, hurricanes, or even tropical moisture, as we are still staying very, very nice over the next few days. Again, Sunday, probably your most humid day, as we'll be tracking that cold front. It's just not going to have a lot of moisture with it, which we love to hear. Upper 70s, lower 80s the next 7 days. Well, Labor Day, again, looking fantastic with a high near 80, small chance of rain. Even the extended forecast looks pretty good, which we'll have a preview of that 10-day coming up tonight at 4, 5, and 6 o'clock.
All right, so that is your full forecast. All right, we want to take a break. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Just 2 minutes. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sertivant, Carlene's here, Jeb's here. All right, so let's get to a story that we are following up on. Our Richard Devane actually reported on this story this morning as breaking news during our morning show. Had hits for us all morning, but we are following up today on a officer-involved shooting. CMPD, I'm reading our headline from our website, CMPD shoots man who opened fire on officers in Southeast Charlotte. A man was shot multiple times by Charlotte-Mecklenburg police after allegedly opening fire on officers in Southeast Charlotte early this morning. That's according to investigators. We want to get out now to WCNC Charlotte's Jessie Pierre. She's live outside of CMPD. So, Jessie, what are you learning right now?
Well, you know, like you mentioned, this was an officer-involved shooting. It happened around 2 o'clock this morning along Pineborough Road, which is off of Monroe Road. So we spent some time in the community earlier today, and actually the scene just got cleared a few hours ago. Police say that they received a 911 call from someone saying that they had a family member who was acting erratic and was potentially armed. And when police got there, they say that when officers got there, that the individual started shooting at them right away, and police returned fire, hitting that individual, in which then officers started to render aid. That individual was taken to the hospital with life-threatening, or actually, I'll have to double check on that, but that person was shot, and so they were taken to the hospital with injuries and so forth. So again, it is unclear, the type of what they were suffering from. Again, the family member says that the person was acting erratic. It's not clear if it was a mental health situation there, was it some substance abuse there, and so forth. So we are trying to get down to what really happened and why 911 had to be called in the first place. We spoke to some folks in the neighborhood, and again, the scene has been cleared, but there was a car, for example, that was parked in a driveway that was hit by a bullet. A lot of folks in the community tell me that it's a pretty quiet area and not something they would have expected in that space. But it was not clear who the individual was, and their identity has not been released by police. But again, a very frightening situation for neighbors to wake up and hear just a number of gunshots out of their windows at a time when they should be asleep and so forth, and being woken up by that. And again, this person is in the hospital. The SBI has taken over the investigation and obviously looking into it. The officers who were involved in the officer-involved shooting, they were taken to the hospital as well, just for evaluation. They were not hurt physically, but out of protocol, they were taken to the hospital to be checked out. So we're continuing to ask questions. We're going to be checking back on the individual's condition, as well as what led to the what condition or so forth mentally and so forth that led to the 911 call in the first place, and seeing what we can learn about this incident as far as what got the police involved here. But again, we're here outside of CMPD office over here and just continuing to look into this story. Nick?
All right, Jesse. Yeah, a lot there. Again, you can catch Jesse at 4 and 5 here on WCNC Plus and over on WCNC Charlotte. Jesse, thank you for your time. Be safe out there. All right, so we want to get to something live happening right now. All right, so make sure I'm getting this right. This is out of Miami, right? Mm-hmm. All right, so this is a live look in Miami. Pride parade, a pride rally. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have so far. Well, let's take a listen in. Again, this is Miami, Florida. This is Pride rally, or Pride rally that's happening right now. I keep wanting to say parade, but Pride rally that's happening in Miami. Let's take a listen in.
That the governor office is pointing out state law. That's saying that it is law.
I filed legislation to go
he
further.
Is making it clear
to delete the outdated
that what we are doing is all political decisions that the governor has made. Nothing new was added to this law. As a matter of fact, it has been on the books for quite some time.
And I won't stop till we've succeeded together. I work to expand access to life-saving medicines. This saves lives in the LGBTQ.
All right, so what you're hearing right now, and I know this may seem confusing, but there is that guy right there with the microphone and speaker is a counter protester. So you heard his voice as they were having this press conference here in Miami for Pride. And again, this man looks to be, again, counter protesting, trying to distract and trying to stop this press conference, interrupt this press conference that's happening. Let's tune back in to see if we can hear what's happening right now.
Absolutely doing. The constant political stunts, the constant political backflips, and trying to blame this on anything other than the division that is coming from a party that has created nothing to be better for Floridians here within this state. A crosswalk is not putting food on no one's table. A crosswalk is not making sure a family gets to school on time or their health care. A crosswalk and the decision that the governors are making is political. It has nothing to do with power. I mean, it has everything to do with power. It has nothing to do with people. And what we're seeing right now, even from my colleague from across the aisle,
safety and love.
We must ensure that we elect leaders who represent everyone. Whether you are a Democrat, Republican, Independent, it doesn't matter who you are. But I want to make it clear that the political decisions that are being made, the political fights that are happening about a crosswalk is wasting time. And we are moving away from the real issues that we as a people and as leaders should be fighting for. And at this time, I will invite our next speaker, who will be Commissioner Alex Fernandez.
Thank you everyone for being here this morning. My name is Alex Fernandez. I want to thank the allies and the partners that are joining us here today in Miami Beach. This crosswalk has been in Miami Beach for 10 years, and it is in fact one of the safest crosswalks on Ocean Drive, and the data shows that. So today, this is a fight to uphold a crosswalk that is a very safe crosswalk. And this is an attack that's being brought upon by our community. It has not been created by our community. It's been brought brought upon our
And I am here
community.
front and
This is
center
a
to
war
address the
against
real
the
issues,
LGBTQ
the real
community.
issues that we have to
And
deal
so
with.
today what we're doing is we're joining
These are
forces.
just pavers,
We will be bringing
inspired
forward
by our
an item
Art Deco
at our
heritage.
Wednesday City Commission
They were
meeting to
never
bring forward
approved
an
by
administrative
FDOT.
hearing against
I would proudly
FDOT to
keep one in
challenge
my
their
district
order to
office
remove
and in
this
Tallahassee.
crosswalk. And if we
But
fail
symbols
at
are
that
not
appeal,
solutions.
we will go forward
If
and we
Miami
will
Beach
pursue that appeal
insists on
forward.
symbols,
But today
then
we are
every community
united.
deserves one.
Today we are
Rape
united
victims,
as a community.
Teachers, seniors, law enforcement, Israel and the Jewish people, veterans, people with disabilities, victims of violence. That's why I sent a letter demanding fairness for all.
All right, so we want to shift away from this press conference. We want to take you right now to Washington, D.C., to the White House. That is Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt speaking. She just got to the podium. Let's take a listen in to what she's saying right now.
It's the first morning mass of the school year for these beautiful, innocent children, and this sacred religious service was desecrated by an evil monster. We are all eternally grateful to the heroic law enforcement officers and first responders whose courage and swift response aided all of those impacted by this horrible tragedy. As Director Kash Patel confirmed yesterday, the FBI is currently investigating this shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. President Trump signed a proclamation yesterday following his call with the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, acknowledging the victims and their families and directing flags to be flown at half-mast. President Trump and the First Lady encouraged the entire nation to join all of us in praying for the victims and their families as they face unimaginable grief and loss. The White House and the FBI will continue to provide further updates as they become available. I also have a quick scheduling announcement for you today. The President will travel to New York City on September 22nd to address the United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday, September 23rd. On another matter, as Americans make their Labor Day weekend travel plans, they will be able to enjoy 5-year low gas prices thanks to President Trump fully unleashing American energy dominance. President Trump ended Joe Biden's Green New Scam policies and is delivering on his promise to make America affordable again. These savings at the pump are giving everyday American families more room in their budgets at the end of each month, which is the exact opposite of what we saw under the previous administration. And as we commemorate Labor Day this year, we finally have a president who fights and delivers for the American worker every single day. President Trump believes that American workers are the heart and soul of our economy and our national identity, which is why he's championed an agenda that puts them first always. For decades, the hardworking men and women of our country who built the greatest nation in world history were sold out by selfish, greedy, short-sighted globalists who put our country on a path to economic and cultural ruin. They hollowed out our factories and towns and betrayed the American working class by shipping jobs overseas and importing millions of low-wage migrants to replace American workers. Under President Trump, this national disgrace is over. American workers are, once again, being put at the center of national trade policy, and the dignity of American labor is being defended. As a result, President Trump has already brought in nearly $10 trillion in new private and foreign investments so that the top businesses in the world can create high-paying jobs in America and hire American workers to fill them. In fact, since President Trump took office, the economy has added more than 500,000 new jobs to the workforce. In a stark reversal from the Biden administration, all of that job creation has been driven by private sector growth, and all employment gains have gone to native-born Americans. Wages for blue-collar workers are now rising at the fastest rate in the past 60 years. And the average American worker has already seen a $500 wage increase this year alone. Thanks to the largest middle tax cuts ever signed into law by President Trump, with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, Americans in all 50 states will keep more of their hard-earned money. The average American taxpayer will see a tax cut of nearly $4,000 because of these pro-growth provisions, according to analysis from the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation. In other news, President Trump continues to deliver on his promise to restore law and order to our nation's capital. Since President Trump's intervention, there have been more than 1,283 arrests right here in the District of Columbia. Total crime in D.C. is down 19%, and violent crime is down 30%. Carjackings in the district are down 67%. Homicides are down 57%. Robberies are down 40%. Motor vehicle thefts are down 32%. And assaults with dangerous weapons are down 23%. And property crime is down 18%. These numbers prove the president's bold actions to make D.C. safe and beautiful again are working, just like he said they would. And that's why on Monday, the president took additional action to sign an executive order taking steps to ensure that cashless bail in Washington, D.C. is eliminated. For too long, D.C.'s reckless cashless bail policies have allowed dangerous criminals to be quickly released, which endangers everyone who lives in and visits our wonderful capital. No cash bail has also foolishly forced law enforcement to repeatedly arrest the same offenders over and over again, only for them to be released back into our nation's capital. This is the definition of insanity, and the president is seeking to end it. He also signed a separate executive order addressing the crime emergency in D.C. by instructing the National Park Service to hire additional United States Park Police officers to support public safety, and directing the U.S. Attorney's Office for D.C. to hire additional prosecutors to focus solely on violent and property crimes. So while liberal Democrats across the country continue to double down on their failed soft on crime approach, the American people, including local D.C. leadership, business owners, and residents, are rallying behind President Trump's crime crackdown. According to new polling, 81% of Americans say crime is a major problem in large cities across the country. And a clear majority of Americans believe the president's actions are justified and necessary to reduce crime in these cities. Indu Bhatia, who runs a liquor store a half-mile from the White House here just down the street, is one of those Americans who are grateful for President Trump's public safety push. Indu recently told the New York Post that her store was robbed so many times that they had to spend exorbitant sums of money on security, jeopardizing her family's financial future. But thanks to President Trump's strong action, Indu said, quote, "All of my employees, including me, we feel much safer, and even our customers feel really happy when they walk into our store." And just yesterday, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser credited President Trump for surging federal law enforcement personnel and said neighborhoods, quote, "feel and are much safer." We thank Mayor Bowser for her cooperation and her willingness to help us make D.C. safe and beautiful. This entire effort has vindicated what President Trump and law and order advocates have been saying for years, and this is our message to Americans in Democrat-run cities nationwide. Decline is a choice. You don't have to live in constant fear of being robbed, raped, or murdered. Your leaders are lying to you, and they have been failing you for decades. The President Trump approach of upholding law and order by letting our brave men and women in blue actually do their jobs to aggressively fight crime works. In just a few weeks, President Trump has done more for D.C. residents than Democrats did in 50 years. And this can be replicated in other crime-ridden cities across the nation. As President Trump has said, all of these elected officials in charge have to do is pick up the phone and ask for the president and the federal government's help. President Trump doesn't care if they are a Republican or a Democrat leader. He wants Americans to be safe and for every law-abiding American citizen across the country to be able to thrive in their city and in their community. With that, I'll take questions. Here in our new media seat today, we have social media influencer, content creator, Brandon Tatum. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't you kick us off?
Well, Caroline, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And on behalf of everybody that follow me, the millions of people that follow me, I want to say thank you for making a sacrifice and dealing with some of the most disingenuous people on planet Earth at times. I have two questions. The first question is associated with the shooting that occurred the other day. And I want to ask the question of, we know that it's not a gun thing. Any rational person knows it's not a gun thing. We know it's a mental health issue. So I want to know from you, what is President Trump and the White House going to do to address mental health issues around the country associated with these shootings? And the second thing is Chicago. You know, anybody with, and I say, with a connected brainstem knows that Chicago's crime is out of control. And young black men are getting killed, laying dead in the middle of the streets every single day in Chicago. No president has addressed any of these issues. And so what is the White House going to do to address issues in their capacity to deal with the conflict and violence in Chicago?
Sure. Well, to your first question about this shooting in Minnesota, right now, the administration is focused on helping the people of Minnesota. It's been less than a day, of course, since this tragedy happened. We have federal law enforcement on the ground assisting local law enforcement. This investigation is ongoing. There's still a lot of facts to understand about these circumstances, and so we're going to continue to do that. As for Chicago and cracking down on crime, it is a priority of this administration to ensure that American cities are safe again, and I'm so glad that you brought up the crime in Chicago, because we've been seeing the governor of Illinois parading out there saying that there's nothing wrong with Chicago, it's a great place to live, there's no crime there, he doesn't need President Trump's help. Well, I think the residents of Chicago beg to differ, and the statistics beg to differ, and I'll just share a few of those statistics with all of you. For 13 consecutive years, Chicago has had the most murders of any U.S. city. This is J.B. Pritzker's legacy, by the way. For 7 consecutive years, Chicago has had the highest murder rate among U.S. cities with more than 1 million people. In 2024, just last year, Chicago's murder rate per capita was 3 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 5 times higher than New York City. That's more than double the murder rate in Islamabad and nearly 15 times more than Delhi. Out of Chicago's 147,899 reported crimes this year, that's how many crimes have been reported in Chicago since January 1st. There have only been arrests in 16% of them. These numbers are unacceptable. There have been more illegal guns recovered in Chicago than in New York City and Los Angeles combined. The number of reported motor vehicle thefts last year was more than double the number in 2021. And Chicago has also, just like DC, come under scrutiny over discrepancies in its homicide data reporting. So as bad as these numbers are, perhaps they are even worse. And this is Governor Pritzker's legacy. He should put politics aside. He should pick up the phone and call this president, who would be more than happy to do right by law-abiding American residents in the city of Chicago, and we hope that he will. Gabe, and thanks for being here, Brandon. Gabe.
Carolyn, thank you so much. First on the firing of the CDC director. First,
sure.
Who will replace her? And then also, overnight, the White House said that she did not align with the president's agenda. Dr. Menard's attorneys say that she refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts. What specifically did she do wrong?
Look, what I will say about this individual is that her lawyer's statement made it abundantly clear themselves that she was not aligned with the president's mission to make America healthy again. And the secretary asked her to resign. She said she would, and then she said she wouldn't, so the president fired her, which he has every right to do. It was President Trump who was overwhelmingly reelected on November 5th. This woman has never received a vote in her life, and the president has the authority to fire those who are not aligned with his mission. A new replacement will be announced by either the president or the secretary very soon, and the president and Secretary Kennedy are committed to restoring trust and transparency and credibility to the CDC by ensuring their leadership and their decisions are more public-facing, more accountable, strengthening our public health system, and restoring it to its core mission of protecting Americans from communicable diseases, investing in innovation to prevent, detect, and respond to future threats. That's the mission of the CDC. And we're going to make sure that folks that are in positions of leadership there are aligned with that mission.
And briefly on another topic, alligator Alcatraz. Last week, a judge on an environmental concerns lawsuit said that the administration had 60 days to wind down operations there, or state officials did. Now, the administration has not been shy in fighting back against what it calls activist judges, but why is it backing down this time?
We're not backing down. We've always said that we are going to continue to fight in the court of law for what's right, because we know that what this administration is doing with respect to all policy, but also immigration policy, is above the books, and we're abiding by our nation's immigration laws, and we think it's despicable that an active judge has inserted themselves in this migrant detention facility to the point where DHS is now having to relocate these illegal immigrants to other detention facilities around the country. That is an unnecessary burden on the Department of Homeland Security and these agents who should be removing these criminals from our community. That's what the American people elected this president to do. So we've always maintained, Gabe, we're going to comply with court orders, but we're also going to fight back on them on the merits of the law. And DHS is in compliance while we disagree with this decision, and will continue to fight it in court. Let's go to.
Hey,
Go ahead.
Thanks so much. So just following up on the CDC firing.
Sure.
Are you anticipating other changes there at CDC in addition to that firing? And is the administration going through in a very sort of organized fashion? Is there a task force that's going through high-level appointees to see who is or isn't aligned with the mission? Like, should we expect more changes?
Not to my knowledge. I understand there were a few other individuals who resigned after the firing of Ms. Monterez. One of those individuals wrote in his departure statement that he identifies pregnant women as pregnant people. So that's not someone who we want in this administration anyway. So if people are not aligned with the president's vision and the secretary's vision to make our country healthy again, then we will gladly show them the door.
Caroline, can I just
go to the back?
Thank you, Caroline.
Go behind you, Andrew. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. The military deployment that President Trump has sent to the Caribbean Sea close to the shores with Venezuela is massive. It's much more that is needed to simply counter narcotics operations. Is President Trump considering launching military strikes to military installments or facilities in Venezuelan soil?
I won't get ahead of the president with respect to any military action or questions about that ever. But what I will tell you is that many Caribbean nations and many nations in the region have applauded the administration's counter-drug operations and efforts, and the president is prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. And as I've said from this podium before, the Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. Maduro is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this drug cartel. He has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into our country, and it is the utmost responsibility of this president and this administration to prevent the illicit flow of drugs into our country and to protect citizens from those deadly poisons. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions for you.
Sure.
Democrats, including former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, attacked prayer and pushed gun control in the aftermath of yesterday's shooting. What's the White House's response to their comments?
Yes, I saw the comments of my predecessor, Ms. Psaki, and frankly, I think they're incredibly insensitive and disrespectful to the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church, it's utterly disrespectful to deride the power of prayer in this country, and it's disrespectful to the millions of Americans of faith. And I would encourage Ms. Psaki to pray for these families themselves who need it right now more than ever.
My second question for you is that there have been media outlets who have glazed over the fact that the shooter was confused in their gender identity. Does the administration believe that this element needs to be investigated in the shooting?
All of the elements are being investigated in the shooting, absolutely. Which is why part of the reason the FBI director came out and immediately confirmed that facet of the investigation. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Two questions on two separate issues. First of all, the drone and missile strikes that took place overnight in Ukraine. General Keith Kellogg, the president's special envoy, has described these attacks as egregious. Do you agree with that description, and do you view President Putin as an impediment to getting peace between these two countries?
Well, it's not about if I agree, it's about what the president thinks, and I know what the president thinks because I talked to him about this. He was not happy about this news, but he was also not surprised. These are two countries that have been at war for a very long time. Russia launched this attack on Kyiv, and likewise, Ukraine recently dealt a blow to Russia's oil refineries. They have taken out, as a matter of fact, 20% of Russia's oil refinery capacity over the course of their attacks throughout the month of August. So the president is continuing to watch this intently, and this killing, unfortunately, will continue as long as the war continues, which is why the president wants it to end, and that's why he's worked harder than anyone to end this war, which would have never started if he were president. But perhaps both sides of this war are not ready to end it themselves. The president wants it to end, but the leaders of these two countries need it to end and want it to end, must want it to end as well. And I think the president will make some additional statements on this later.
My second question has to do with Lisa. I just had one more, if I may. It has to do with the president's intention to remove Lisa Cook as a member of the Federal Reserve Board. He is going or acting upon allegations that have been made by Trump administration official Bill Pulte. These are just allegations. She hasn't been convicted yet of any crime. Is the administration opposed to allowing Ms. Cook to have due process, to challenge what has been alleged against her?
I believe she is challenging it. I believe she just filed a lawsuit today, and Mr. Pulte has deferred those allegations over to the Department of Justice to investigate them. What I will say is that you had these mortgage receipts very clearly shown to the president, and he has the cause that he needs to fire this individual. He laid it out in the letter that he provided to her and to the public as well. And so we'll continue to fight this battle. Carrie.
Caroline, so the president just announced that he wants to have a convention right before the midterms next year. The GNC has countered that they too want to have a convention right before the midterms as well. What's the White House's response to that? And can you give us just a little bit of a hint or a tease here as to how the president envisions a convention for the midterms?
Look, the president put out a statement on this earlier today. I'll let him speak further on the plans that he envisions. But I think he's very proud of the accomplishments and the achievements of his administration, as he should be. The most secure border in United States history, a crackdown on crime here in our nation's capital, an attack or a reversal of the attack on our energy industry from the previous administration. As I just pointed out to you, gas prices today, this Labor Day, are the lowest they've been since Labor Day in 2020. Our economy is bringing in trillions of dollars in revenue from all over the world again. So there's so much for Republicans and for the president and for Americans across the country to be proud of, and I think the president wants to.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Time now 1:32. You're watching the White House briefing there. So we're going to step away from that, and we want to go to break. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. Hang right on. We'll be back in 2 minutes. We have an update on a story out of South Carolina regarding school resource officers. But again, hang on. We'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Carlene's here, Jep's here. All right, so let's get to a story that we are following today. So South Carolina has secured funding to place armed officers in all roughly almost 1,300 public schools statewide. Governor Henry McMaster announced that funding recently, and these will be full-time school resource officers, again, in every South Carolina public school. WCNC Charlotte's Anna King is covering the story for us. Anna, you're covering the story for us. You're there in South Carolina. Where exactly in South Carolina are you? And two, what can you tell us about this?
Yeah, right now I'm in York, and in just a few moments we will be speaking to an SRO, a school resource officer, just about the importance their role is in the school and providing that safety measure for parents, teachers, and staff, and also students who are in the schools. But earlier today we were in Fort Mill. We were speaking with the school district there just about the importance of, again, having those resource officers in the school, because they've had them for years, and so they just painted the picture of the difference that it makes just having them on standby and in the schools. And like you said, South Carolina did get approved for $29.4 million in additional funding. That means the 177 schools that do not currently have an SRO can now have one, and that also means that now all the public schools in the state will have a trained armed SRO on campus. And Nick, this is extremely important, especially following the tragedy that happened yesterday in Minnesota, where they did not have a school resource officer on staff. So again, this is, and again, in a few moments we will be speaking to an SRO and can hopefully paint this picture a little bit better.
And Anna, I know you have an interview. I do, before I let you go, I do have one question. I know you said you spoke with Fort Mill. They have school resource officers. Did they talk about exactly what they do, the importance and benefits of having them on site at schools?
Yeah, they did. They painted the picture really nicely, actually. They explained that having them on staff or just at the schools at all times allows them to build that connection between parents and students, and also having them having resource officers that have connections with the police departments, that are the local police departments, allows them just to give them that extra bit of security that they need, and also peace of mind for, I'm sure, the parents and staff and students there.
Yeah, a lot of parents concerned especially after that shooting there in Minneapolis, Minnesota. All right, Anna has an interview at 2, so I'll let you go. You can catch Anna at 5 and 6 o'clock. Anna, thank you for your time. All right, so that's Anna King. Again, you can catch her at 5 and 6 o'clock there, as she has reached out to several school districts in South Carolina. We followed the story as far as security and school safety from the North Carolina side of things yesterday with school districts. Got statements from school districts also in South Carolina as well. So that's a story that we will continue to follow following the tragic shooting in Minneapolis, Minnesota. All right, so let's go back now. We brought you this earlier, the White House briefing that's happening. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is there on the podium. She's taking questions from reporters. Let's take a listen in.
Big Beautiful Bill was signed into law. We're going to see the effects of this massive pro-growth piece of legislation. As I laid out for you as we head into the Labor Day weekend, there's many positive economic indicators that the American people can be hopeful about. But don't forget, we are reversing 4 years of reckless spending from the previous administration, of slamming regulations down the throats of American business owners and consumers across the country. But the administration is working very hard to unravel all of that and to ensure that small business owners and workers are thriving and that they have more money in their own pockets to spend. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Caroline. Back on the CDC, there was reporting that some of the initial problems between RFK and the CDC director stemmed from miscommunications or differences on vaccine policy. So I wonder if you could just say whether or not the president believes that the COVID vaccine should be available to and covered by insurance for all Americans, regardless of age and pre-existing conditions.
What I will tell you is that the FDA recently revoked the emergency youth authorizations for 3 COVID vaccinations vaccinations while simultaneously greenlighting 4 new COVID-19 vaccines with 2025 and 2026 formulas. The reason for the revocation of that emergency youth authorization is because obviously the COVID pandemic and the public health emergency is over. But just to correct the record, because there's been a lot of misinformation on this, the FDA's decision does not affect the availability of COVID vaccines for Americans who want them. We believe in individual choice. That's a promise both the President and the Secretary have made, and it's a promise they have now delivered on.
Question if I could, Caroline. Second question if I could, sorry. I wonder if you could answer why the President hasn't acknowledged the shooting at CDC headquarters that took place earlier in August, where a police officer was killed, and it was reported that the motivation for the shooting was somebody who was really unhappy with the effects of the COVID vaccine.
We absolutely were very much aware of that shooting. The Secretary of Health and Human Services put out a statement immediately. He was in touch with the CDC, and he actually traveled to Georgia to assess the situation and to mourn with the people who work in that building there. So, go ahead.
With respect to Labor Day, one of the most underrepresented groups right now are police officers. 30,000 police officers short in America right now. To Brandon's question, 1,300 short in Chicago, 3,000 short in New York, 500 short here in Washington, D.C. What can the White House, what can the President do to help recruitment of police officers? He's done well with the military and Border Patrol. What can be done to get more police officers on the streets of America?
Well, the President has certainly been very successful in recruiting federal law enforcement. If you look at the ICE recruitment campaign that was led by he and our Secretary of Homeland Security, we've seen more than, I believe, 130,000 applicants to join ICE, which is just amazing. There's more applicants now than there are jobs to fill, and we're very grateful for that. Clearly, Americans want to serve their communities. They just need a leader who encourages them to do so. So maybe Governor Pritzker should spend less time demonizing the police, more time trying to recruit more police, and more time trying to call the President of the United States to get crime in his city under control. The President wants to allow law enforcement, whether it's state, local, federal, to do their jobs, to arrest criminals, to put them behind bars, and to remove public safety threats from American communities. He'll continue to do that. Thank you, guys.
All right, so that was Caroline Leavitt just leaving. She's press secretary for the White House. That press conference just wrapping up there, touching on many things, including the shooting in Minnesota, the tragic shooting in Minnesota there. She gave a brief statement. All right, so we want to step aside for just 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. I promise we'll be back in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. That is Carlene. She is here. Carlene, we talked about it. It is a great day for iced PSL.
Yeah.
Sound fancy
nice.
saying that. PSL.
PSL.
Pumpkin spice latte. Ice pumpkin spice latte. At that. I say all that because the weather is nice. It is. We haven't reached false fall. This is not false fall weather. This is like a we're slowly wrapping up summer weather.
Right.
So I don't know if the pool is like the best place to be, but like just taking a walk outside or.
I mean, you could still splash in
you
this.
think so?
One. Yeah. Sure.
Maybe I get cold too easy or
Maybe.
chilly too easy. But yeah, maybe dip your feet. I think this is like jacuzzi weather.
You think 80-something degrees is jacuzzi
It does
weather?
not feel like it's 80-something. Maybe in the sun. I mean, it's kind of, our parking lot is kind of shady.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is. I could be wrong.
Like,
it may be pool weather.
You gotta
I'm
be.
Just,
I was like 80-something degrees in the jacuzzi. That's soup.
I'm sorry, guys. It's still pool weather. I'm getting carried away. I've had PSL.
You
on
got
the
it
brain.
on your mind.
Pumpkin spice latte on the brain. All right. All right. So, look, let's check in with the forecast. Let's check in with the forecast because a lot of you guys are making plans. It's Labor Day. It's Labor Day weekend.
It's Labor Day weekend.
It's Carlene's Friday.
It is.
It's many folks Friday. A lot of folks. So I read something before we get to the forecast.
Sure.
Interesting, and I just never noticed it until it was pointed out. And I have to give a shout out to the Today Show for pointing this out. So I was watching this morning, and they said Thursday is a new Friday.
Just like as a thing, in society, as a trend.
Well, no. Let me put some context. Thursday is a new Friday when it comes to Labor Day travel, holiday travel, when it aligns to a weekend. So like with Labor Day, Thursday's a new Friday. People leave it on Thursday.
Yeah.
So, and people are like, that's their Friday.
That's their Friday.
They're off on Friday. So I just want to point that out.
It's me. That's me.
That's you.
That's me.
This is your Friday. This is not mine. I'll be here. Don't worry, folks. I'll be here tomorrow. Carlene won't be here,
You'll
but
be
I'll
laboring.
Be here. I'll be laboring.
You're gonna be laboring. Are you laboring on Monday?
Yeah, I will be here Monday.
Oh, yeah, laboring.
So we are here on Monday. So hey, I enjoy you guys, so of course. But anyway,
I enjoy you too, but I will not be laboring. Sorry, guys.
She's rubbing it in, but I would have done the same.
I know you would have.
She's taking
you always do.
Play out right out of my playbook. All right, let's check in with a forecast. Here is meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees.
Happy Thursday. It is once again going to be a fantastic day here in the Charlotte area, from the metro all the way to the mountains, the sandhills, foothills, really everywhere. You can see sunshine mixing with clouds today. That's probably the biggest change, especially across the Charlotte metro, is that we will see more clouds, but I'm still giving it an A+. Not seeing a lot of colors changing, of course, on our picture there in Beach Mountain, but we know over the next few months it certainly will, and it kind of makes it feel like fall, right? And speaking of fall, the past few days have felt very, very fall-like. We will be a touch warmer heading into Friday, but next week, another shot of cooler and less humid air will really make that fall-like feel return across most of the area. Now that, of course, includes Labor Day, where we do have a brief 20% chance of rain. Now, as we get closer to fall, I know people are excited to go leaf peeping. Now, here in the Charlotte area, we normally don't see our peak color until Halloween, if not slightly after the first week of November, but up in the mountains, it really starts to kick off getting closer to October. So September 1st does begin meteorological fall, so it is something that I know many folks are getting closer and closer to excitement about. Now, I do want to mention, with Helene's anniversary coming up in a few weeks, it's important to note that our local communities, Ashwaubenon, Avery County, including toward Asheville, Waynesville area, the ones that were deeply impacted by Helene, even more so than us here in the central and eastern part of the Carolinas, they need your tourism dollars. If you are planning on leaf peeping anywhere, try to make it in some of those spots local in North Carolina, even in South Carolina, if there's some of those areas too, because they were really impacted by the storm, of course, lost a lot of tourism dollars, so anything we can do to help them continue to rebuild. Now, fall foliage should be right on time this year because we've had kind of the same normal quintessential days here in the Charlotte area over August. Yes, it was very, very cool and very, very wet to kick off the month, but that consistent rain actually will help the foliage be pretty normal. And then recently, when we've had these cooler, morning mornings, sunny days. I wouldn't call them crisp yet, but they're going to get there as we get closer to September. It kind of kicks off the perfect setup as of right now. Of course, we know things can change, but as of now, we're expecting things to be right on time. Low temperatures this morning up in the mountains. We're in the 40s, locally upper 50s, low 60s. Still a few spots, especially at the higher tips there of the mountains, did drop to the upper 30s and lower 40s. So we know they're a lot cooler than us, and that will be even more obvious over the next few weeks and months. Today's forecast, yes, mostly cloudy. Temperatures reaching the upper 70s to low 80s. Again, very similar to yesterday. Really the only change is a few more clouds, and the dew point not quite as low, but it still feels very comfortable outside. Satellite radar again showing the same thing, more clouds out there overall. Futurecast this afternoon stays nice and dry. We will see a better chance for rain heading into the weekend. Tomorrow more sunshine, and then this small chance of rain. So you gotta wait a while until it gets there. There you go. 20% chance at a maximum. That's Saturday, Sunday, and then again on Monday, as we will be tracking a weak storm system moving by, but it does look like it brings better rain chances toward areas north of us, such as Greensboro and Raleigh. Again, if you're traveling locally across the Carolinas, I wouldn't say it's a bad weekend by any stretch, but here locally, very, very small chance of rain, but other parts of the Carolinas may see a slightly higher chance. Here's your dew point the next few days. Slight increase as that front nears us on the weekend, but another shot again of cooler and drier air by next week. Quick update here on the tropics. We have a tropical wave that is about to emerge off the coast of Africa. A low chance of development, but other than that, Farallon is gone. We have nothing tropical to worry about here in the central part of the Carolinas. We're getting really nice weather continues through tomorrow. Small chance of rain this weekend. A great Labor Day. So get out and enjoy it if you can. Stay happy, stay safe, stay healthy, and of course make sure you use lots of caution if you're heading out on the water or the boat.
Wow, what a great weather weekend. 86 is like hot considering what we've been kind of dealing with temperature-wise. So, yeah, it's going to be a great weekend.
79 on Sunday.
It's going to be a great weekend.
It's going to be a great weekend. I said it before, I'm going to Darlington. I'm going to the Cookout Southern 500 on Sunday. Woo!
First one, I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm saying I'm happy for you like you won a trophy, but that's a great time.
It's a fun time. I go every year, but I've been boiling. The last 2 or 3, I mean, melting.
I remember covering the race.
Yeah, because you've been out there.
Oh my goodness, it is hot.
It's usually like
burning hot,
stepping on the surface of the sun.
And you're talking about all that pavement with the track. It is hot, and it's no shade.
There's no shade. There's no tree cover in Darlington. You are on the pavement in the elements.
Frying like an egg.
But this year, 79, I can do it. I can do 79. I get used to that.
Yeah, we'll check back in with Carlene. Mike.
I'll be maybe a little more tan.
Yeah, we might call her Monday just to see how she's doing.
Just see how I'm doing. Just
checking in on Carlene. All right, so we do want to mention that, and I can't believe it every time I read it and see it, but this Hurricane Katrina, 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, devastating the Gulf area, New Orleans specifically. So tomorrow night here on WCNC Plus, we take a look back and reflect on the devastation of Hurricane Katrina. Again, 20 years later, our Brad Panovich, who was working at WCNC at the time, went back to New Orleans because Brad worked for years.
He spent some time in New Orleans,
New Orleans, very familiar with New Orleans. But he went back and he got a chance to talk to me about his time there and where they were staying and what was happening at the time. And I don't want to spoil it because I want you guys to watch the special, but really great stories. Brad showed me some pictures from his time working in New Orleans.
Right.
And so that is going to be a treat. Again, he covered the storm along with others. Brad shares personal pictures from 2005, talks to a former meteorologist who had to evacuate his wife and newborn son during the storm. That a lot of these stories, just wow, can't wrap my mind around it. Carlene and I, we both are old enough to remember what we saw on TV and what was playing out and what was happening and the impacts that happened back in 2005. Again, you don't want to miss this special. It starts at 6:30 p.m. Friday night. All right, so we want to head to California, where Governor Gavin Newsom right now is speaking live. This is not him on screen, but he is there talking about reducing crime and their efforts there in the state to reduce crime. Let's take a listen in.
I want to give a shout out to the men and women of the Highway Patrol. We set a goal this year to remove as many crime guns, illegal guns, from the streets that we can. The highest year we've had to date with the Highway Patrol hovered around 2,100. Year to date this year, we're just at 2,500 crime guns that they have removed from the streets. On top of that, almost 1,100 pounds of fentanyl, illegal drugs that are polluting our communities. And so to the men and the women of the Highway Patrol, I say thank you. To the governor, thank you for the support, the confidence. To our teammates and the local allied agencies, we look forward to working with you.
I appreciate it, Commissioner. And Tokes, perhaps you can update some of those coordinated operations. You're also doing a lot of work, continue to do a lot of work with cities and counties as it relates to encampment cleanups and quality of life issues.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to be here. Just two really quick points. Number one, I want to thank the governor for his continued support and leadership on this issue. He's, every single time the CHP has reached out for support and come up with a new idea, or he comes up with a new idea, we're able to move it forward, and the evidence is there that it's making a difference. So thanks to the governor, and thanks to Commissioner and Commissioner Rodney as well for all your support in moving a lot of this effort forward, and for the governor's continued leadership. Number two, even though the governor said in his comments we don't live in the aggregate, look, his team, my team, spent a lot of time looking at the data. And when you look at this data, it clearly shows a lot of the efforts that he's been leading, Commissioner's been leading, it's making a difference. That chart he showed, Oakland, San Francisco, crime down. Overall as a state, violent crime is down in 2024, 4.5%. Property crime is down 8.5% across the state in 2024. As the Commissioner noted, it's not just he and his teams. Those allied agencies obviously play a significant role in driving those numbers down. So I think it's just important to note that even though the governor is being bashful and saying, you know, we don't spend all our time here, our teams do. The people in the community should be feeling that impact of improved safety out there, no doubt. But to the governor's point as well, these issues related to crime are very much connected to what our streets look like. Not only do I have the responsibility to support Commissioner DeRee, also have oversight and support of Caltrans as well. Caltrans has a big responsibility in making sure that our rights of way, more than 50,000 miles in the state, are clean and open and safe, and dealing with issues related to people experiencing homelessness and encampments and litter, Clean California. All those things, governor's spearheaded to levels that we've never seen before in this state in his tenure, with funding and policy support. And so we're going to continue to do that work as well. Beyond CHP, Caltrans is going to continue to be focused and stepping up in cities like Oakland and San Francisco, and Bakersfield, San Diego, LA, to make sure that where we're seeing high numbers of litter or possible encampments, we're cleaning those up, and not just cleaning up encampments just to disperse people, but to make sure that they have long-term housing and care that they need as well. It's very, very important in the work that we do. We're not just going out there and cleaning up our sidewalks and clearing people out of the way. We're making sure they're connected to the continued services that they may need as well. So with that, again, Governor, thank you for your leadership on this. And Commissioner DeRee, the CST effort here, hoping that it sees much success in the months to come.
Yeah, no, look, and the leadership is shared across the board, and again, I want to just highlight the mayors in particular that have been extraordinary partners in this effort, and it's a bipartisan effort. We're moving in Republican communities, Democratic communities, but we're all moving in the same direction, and that's the spirit we're bringing to this this expansion of our existing program, and want to maintain that momentum and do it on the basis, I think, of what the Commissioner mentioned, which is with the support, strong support of the community. One of the things that has been, you know, I spent a lot of time in Oakland
It's an extraordinary thing to walk the streets of Oakland and have people come up and say thank you to the California Highway Patrol. Thank you to the men and women of the California Highway Patrol for being there. And that's testament to the quality of the training, but also the quality of leadership. And so I just want to acknowledge the men and women that are in front lines and thank them for being extraordinary ambassadors for this program that allow us to be in this position to be able to expand it significantly across the state. With that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Governor, is this in response to President Trump talking about, or is it to prevent the possibility? When President Trump talks about deploying more National Guard troops to more cities, is this part of a response or to prevent that from happening?
Well, I think you can go back to your own reporting. We've been pretty consistent with these kinds of announcements. We haven't necessarily invited you in to the horseshoe here to announce them. We've done it by paper. We do it every week. We're highlighting these things. I've had probably 9 or 10 press conferences on this topic over the course of the last few years. So we're not reacting, responding to anything, quite the contrary, with one caveat. The community wants to see more, and we are trying to be responsive to the people we serve. As it relates to the president in particular, he's doing things to people, not with people. It's a point of profound and consequential contrast. He's de facto militarizing American cities. That's why I led with the Breyer decision. We're waiting for the outcome of that. Could have profound implications in terms of his authority to militarize American cities. Again, certainly here in California, the impacts, though, will be discussed and debated if he moves in our direction across the United States. But I should note, just on that, if he is to invest in crime suppression, I hope the President of the United States would look at the facts. Just consider Speaker Johnson's state and district. Just look at the murder rate that's nearly 4 times higher than California's in Louisiana. This Speaker Johnson, 4x higher. I'm just offering, again, you've not seen this on Fox News, so President may not be familiar with these facts. So I want to present some facts to the President of the United States.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. That is California Governor Gavin Newsom talking about crime there in the state and their efforts to reduce it. So we want to shift away from that. We want to head to break. We'll be back in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We're a few minutes past the top of the hour. So let's talk about a story that we've reported on for years. It's a project that's been in limbo for about a decade, and it's right there in Uptown, but can't really see much because there hasn't been much progress, but there have been a lot of talks around it. And we're talking about the Brooklyn Village project in Uptown, conversations between Mecklenburg County and the developer People's Corporation seemingly have come to a halt. So let's bring in WCNC Charlotte's Walker Lawson. Walker, we talked about it a little bit at your desk after our morning meeting. You've been following up on this story it feels like for weeks. You finally got a chance to talk to the developer. Where are we? I know I said Mecklenburg County and People's Corporation are at like a standstill right now, but where are we at really?
Yeah, so as of now, things really are halted.
Okay.
They seemingly are at a stopping point at this moment. So we reached out to Mecklenburg County to try to get comment from them on where they stand. We've heard nothing thus far. Today, I've been in contact with their public information officer to try to get an answer on what they can say. But the developer basically said to us, conversations have completely stopped almost. And so this really all stems back from, if you remember, a couple months ago, the city of Charlotte was reviewing affordable housing options, and they were looking to give out grants through the HUD money that they have for affordable housing. And Brooklyn Village developers applied for the largest grant ever of $13.5 million. And that was to try to build affordable housing on this site. Well, the city basically didn't approve it and said, come back to us in a month with a revised plan. Well, they started working with the county and with the city to try and find a way to meet. Then you have this building that comes into play, the Board of Education building, that's on the property, or a part of the site of the development. And this Board of Education building in the agreement was supposed to be torn down at the end of July. But when People's Corporation started going in and looking at it, they realized there was too much asbestos and they were not going to be able to take it down by the date that they had signed an agreement to take down. So they went to the county and said, we're not going to be able to take this down by then. And then that's when they say the meeting with the city and the county stopped. And that was basically at a halt since then. So it's kind of left things in limbo. They are frustrated in saying that these delays all fall on the county's hands and not on theirs.
I mean, so is there a possibility that they scrap the project? I mean, it seems like it kind of seems inevitable, but you know, for a project where we've been talking about it for a while, folks have been thinking about it. We've been reporting on it. You would think that it would continue at some point. Is there a possibility that they just scrap the project altogether?
So that we don't fully know, and the People's Corporation has told us, the CEO said to me that they're trying everything they can to have open communication, and they want the public to know what's going on and what they feel are causing issues with this project. He told me that they will have to move forward and proceed with the original plan in phase 1. So what they were asking for with this money was to build more affordable housing. Affordable housing has always been a part of the project, but a much smaller number, around 50 units. Obviously, Charlotte is facing an affordable housing crisis. So they applied for the money to try to build this affordable housing. The meeting is stopped. They haven't gotten the money. So they said if meetings don't continue, they're just going to go forward with what the original plan was, which will be limited affordable housing, but they'll do that when the market recovers. When the market recovers,
we don't know.
We don't know.
Why is the county, have you heard from the county, what are they saying? Why are they skeptical of this?
We have heard nothing. I attempted last story, to try to get a comment a month ago. Try to get a comment again today. I've heard nothing. So we'll see what comes in the coming weeks. I think obviously this is clearly building as an issue. And so they will plan to move forward, the developers, as they are. But, you know, they're doing everything they can to try to get a conversation open. And it seems as of now, it's just at a halt.
All right, Walker. Before I let you go, when can folks check out your story?
4:30 and 6 o'clock.
4:30 and 6 o'clock. The
Yes.
interesting developments there out of Uptown Brooklyn Village Project. Walker, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, so we want to shift now to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where right now officials are giving us an update. They're having a press conference. That is Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey speaking. Let's take a listen into what's being said right now.
Think of those last words that you had with your child just this morning before you sent them into school. You kissed them on the cheek, you got them set up with their shoes, you pushed them a pouch of applesauce. Maybe these were little annoyances, but the truth is that there's this common and beautiful thing. We love our children. Make these changes not out of hate, make them out of a simple and beautiful foundational love for our kids. And so what are we talking about? When we talk about action, we need to talk about the action steps that need to take place. We need a statewide and a federal ban on assault weapons. We need a statewide and a federal ban on high-capacity magazines. There is no reason that someone should be able to reel off 30 shots before they even have to reload. We're not talking about your father's hunting rifle here. We're talking about guns that are built to pierce armor and kill people. Why do we have them coming in by the trunk loads onto our streets around the country? And this is not just about Minneapolis, because you can buy an assault rifle in Milwaukee, and that assault rifle is in Minneapolis by noon that very same day. And so when we talk about the work that needs to be done, it's going to take a whole lot of unity from a lot of different cities, and I've gotten calls from their mayors who have experienced virtually the same thing that we experienced yesterday. And because we love our kids, because we love our families, because we love our constituents, we all have the obligation to act. And what you see here, you see federal congresswomen, you see we see our Minneapolis state delegation. You have council members from both Minneapolis and St. Paul. You have our sheriff. You have Moms Demand Action, Protect Minnesota, and every town all united and rallying around a common theme, which is keeping our cities and our country safe. And here's the thing. To the extent the federal government isn't willing to do it, to the extent a divided legislature prevents our state from acting, and by the way, I know that our Minneapolis delegation is on board with this work because they've been doing it. Thank you. But here's the final ask. To the extent other levels of government are either unwilling or unable to keep cities safe, let us do it ourselves. We are responsible for 435,000 residents that call Minneapolis home and many more that come and go. I think we'd be happy to ban assault rifles here in Minneapolis. I know we'd be happy to prevent a next mass shooting from taking place. We have every obligation, not just to each other, but to these families that call Minneapolis home. We love them. Let's love them with more than words. Let's love them with the kind of action that will forever make the difference for people in our city. So the next go round, there's not another city 2 months from now that is saying the same damn thing. Let's stop this from happening. Let's stand up for our children. Let's stand up for each and every one of them. So it takes a whole team to pack this hall, to put these events together, but more importantly, to do the kind of long-term advocacy that results in change. I mentioned a number of groups that are here, and I have the honor, and please give her a very warm welcome, of welcoming up from Moms Demand Action, an exceptional volunteer in Leah Condis.
Thank you. As the mayor said, my name's Leah Condis. I lead the Minneapolis local group of Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. But today, I'm not here just as an advocate. I'm here as a mom. I have 3 daughters. One of them has already lived through shootings at both the mall and the state fair. And I'm a Catholic. I forgot to mention that part. Now, here in our own city, families are living through the nightmare of a shooting on the very first day of school. Annunciation Catholic School should have been a sanctuary, a place where kids laugh with their friends, teachers prepared lessons, parents feel safe dropping their children off in the morning. Instead, gunfire tore through those doors. Children were gunned down in church, praying in their place of worship. Another school year begins, and once again, it is marked by gun violence. And this is not an isolated incident. Less than 24 hours before this tragedy, there was another shooting here in Minneapolis. And in that case, an AR-15 style assault weapon was used. These are weapons of war, and they are tearing through our communities over and over again. We cannot call ourselves a free country when parents cannot send their kids to school without wondering if they will come home alive. And even for the children who survive, the trauma will live with them forever. All signs point to yesterday's shooting also being carried out with an assault weapon. These guns were designed for battlefields, not for our schools, not for our churches, and not for our neighborhoods. No civilian needs a gun that can fire dozens of rounds in seconds. These weapons exist for one purpose: to kill and wound as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. We've seen what happens time and again when assault weapons are used. And we also know what happens when they're banned. Lives are saved. When the federal assault weapons ban was in place, mass shootings went down. After it expired, they increased. We cannot afford more delay. Here in Minneapolis, this tragedy comes after 3 other deadly shootings in just 24 hours.
You're listening to Leah Condis right now. She is a local representative of Moms Demand Action. They're at a press conference at Minneapolis City Hall right now. There are local, state, federal leaders, lawmakers that are there on the Democratic side. Mayor Frey just called for a ban on assault-style weapons, something that former President Bill Clinton did do for about 10 years. He also asked for a ban, at least locally, on high-capacity magazines. Now, a short while ago, our reporter Danny Spiewak interviewed GOP floor leader in Minnesota, in the Minnesota House, Representative Harry Niska. Here's his response to the mass shooting and what lies ahead politically.
I know you're a parent. What's your reaction to everything that happened yesterday?
It's just absolutely devastating. Our kids are in school already. We have a high school senior and an 8th grader, and it's horrible. It's horrible for the entire state, but especially for parents of kids in school, thinking about something like that happening to your kid, and obviously thinking and praying about all those kids and families and everyone affected by it in that church, in that school, in the broader Catholic community, and throughout our entire state. It's just a horrible situation.
Mm-hmm. From your position as a legislator, do you see anything in the upcoming session that you think could respond to the incident we saw?
I think we're going to have a lot of conversations. I hope that we take some time to really understand the situation better. I think we have broader crime problems. We obviously have broader mental health problems. We have broader school safety problems, all of which I hope we are able to address in a way that's constructive and positive. Private schools in Minnesota have been asking about getting equal school funding in 2023. The private school communities and the Catholic Conference specifically raised issues about school safety funding. There are other issues about school safety that we have to address. There was a discussion this last legislative session about cutting, funding for mental health counselors in private schools. I hope that we're not going to be talking about that going forward in the future. And we just have to have a broader conversation about.
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturtevant. We are approaching the bottom of the hour right now. You're watching coverage there from our content partner in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Care 11, as they are doing their continued coverage on the Annunciation Church shooting. Let's go back now, because they showed this earlier, the press conference there at City Hall with gun rights advocates. The mayor spoke. Representative Omar is there, speaking right now. She just got to the podium. Let's take a listen in to what she is saying.
In war. I know a little bit about that. At the age of 8, I survived war myself. I'd never imagined that I'd come to the United States and be in high school, and that there would be a school shooting, and that I myself and my kids to come would practice school drills on how to avoid being gunned down in one of the greatest nations in the world. There is something fundamentally broken. I know that in America we value life. I know that in America we are loving neighbors. I know that in America we are people of faith, because these babies that were gunned down were actually kneeling in prayer. But what I do not know is why, uniquely in America, we have the capacity to not change what we know we can. So that is what we must ask ourselves. This is not a big issue for us to solve, like curing cancer or AIDS, even though we attempt to do that every single day. This is something that is simple, a simple ban to make sure people who should not have access to these weapons do not get them, and then cause harm and trauma for generations to come in our communities. It is a simple ask. You don't have to be a Republican, you don't have to be a Democrat, you don't have to be political at all. You don't even have to be a parent, you don't have to love going to the movies or watching concerts. All you have to be is a human being who loves the ability to live in the liberty of knowing that no one has the capacity to take your life in seconds with the weapons that they shouldn't have access to. And I'm going to call on someone who understands the kind of damage that these kind of weapons could cause to a body, that also understands the trauma that children and families have to live with. This is Dr. Mark Golder, who used to be the former CEO of Children's Hospital and specializes in trauma. Because in this moment, if America has not woken up yet, they need to hear the real realities of what these damages look like in order for our hearts to continue to be softened and for our minds to start thinking about the solutions that we know are accessible to us.
Thank you, Representative Omar. My name is Dr. Mark Gorlick. I'm a pediatric emergency medicine physician, and I want to start by acknowledging the grief of all the children and families at Assumption Church. Every single one of them was assaulted and traumatized yesterday, everyone in that community. And I also want to acknowledge the folks in the EMS system and at Hennepin Health and at Children's Minnesota who took care of those patients. Because I know from my 25 years of practicing pediatric emergency medicine that when you have seen a small body that has been mutilated by bullets, you do not easily or ever get over that. And all the more so because we all know it is entirely preventable. Since 2020, when gun injury became the leading cause of death for children in the United States, since then we have been saying that we are in a public health crisis. And we are. But too often we are putting the emphasis on the word crisis instead of on the word health. This is a health issue. This is not a criminal justice issue or a policing issue. This is not a constitutional law issue. This is not a moral issue. It is a health issue. Children are being injured and killed. They're being injured and killed by bullets coming out of guns fired by people in a social context. And a public health issue requires a public health approach. Centuries of public health research and experience tells us that we have to address all of those factors. In this case, starting with the lethality of the gun and the bullet. Now, the mechanics of this are pretty simple, as Representative Omar said. It's simple. More bullets fired with more force, more injury. Fewer bullets fired with less force cause less injury. It really is that simple. And it turns out the epidemiology and the public policy is also quite simple. There is extensive research showing that in jurisdictions with stronger gun safety laws and policies, including limitations and bans on semi-automatic weapons and high-capacity magazines, that in those jurisdictions there are fewer people who die of gun injury. Easy, right? So what we need is those actions. We need those laws because those laws will save people's lives, period. Those laws can and will save our children's lives. And so, we need action at the federal level, we need action at the state level, and as you've heard. And so I would like to next introduce State Senator Zainab Mohammed.
Okay. They're asking me to get lower so you can hear me. Speak louder? Okay, great. I want to thank everyone for being here today, including so many of my legislative colleagues. And I want to take the opportunity to call out few of them who are not here today but have been extraordinary on this issue, and some who are with us, including Senator Marty, Senator Latz, and Senator Gustafson. The list of us who demand action on this issue is large and growing every day. And because we cannot go back in time, the moment to act is now. What happened at Annunciation Catholic School yesterday was an attack against our beautiful Southside community, against all people of faith, and against humanity. As we have been said already, and it must be repeated, offering prayers for the victims is not enough. These children in the church were in the act of praying. Some of us are privileged to be in a position to not only pray for peace, but to act on it and to create it. At the legislative level, we have taken steps to make our community safer, like red flag laws and enhanced background checks. We have and will continue to give law enforcement new tools. But the monsters who commit these horrific crimes and acts keep using the same tools. The same weapons of war turn up over and over at different shootings. High-powered, high-capacity rifles have killed thousands of Americans over the decades and hundreds of children, including the ones yesterday. It makes me sick that our teachers and kids know what to do in the event of an attack, that they conduct drills to react when that awful moment comes. Parents have practiced at explaining the unexplainable and consoling children who have lost friends who are afraid to go back to the classroom tomorrow. We can act here in Minnesota so that generations from now, our children's children won't fear and won't have to worry about anything but books, math, and maps. If the shooter had an ideology, it was one of hatred, of humanity. They express admirations of mass shooters who have targeted Jews and Muslims and Christians and progressives and children. This is not a part of any community's identity. It is pure hate. The targets of gun violence are too many to count. 2 months ago, it was our friends, Melissa Hortman and John Hoffman and their families, and dozens of other legislators, including me. On Monday, it was 7 people on the street in Minneapolis. Yesterday, it was kids in church. Who will it be tomorrow? How will we explain to them we did nothing to save them? We cannot shield our children with our eyes closed and hands behind our backs. When Martin Luther King was murdered, Bobby Kennedy quoted an ancient Greek poet who said that pain falls drop by drop upon our heart, and that in our despair against our will, through the grace of God, and it becomes wisdom. Our community feels pain, which we cannot forget and we won't. We must find the wisdom and the strength to act to save each other and all future generations. Thank you. And next, I'd like to call up my partner in the Senate District, Representative Emma Greenman.
Well, I first want to say, I think on behalf of Senator Mohammed, Councilwoman Koski, we represent the beautiful neighborhood that Annunciation is part of. And thank you for the advocates, the colleagues, the community members here who are here, not just from Minneapolis, not just from the metro, from around the state, who understand what is happening. Our community is shaken and heartbroken. Losing 2 kids, 17 injured kids and parishioners, and a whole community who this tragedy has reverberated out. I found out about this from neighbors who called and texted and who didn't know what was going on. They heard the barrage of bullets. Nobody should have to live through that. Nobody should lose their kids or family members over that, and communities shouldn't have to live like this. So for the last 24 hours, last day, we have been wrapping our arms around the community, around the families, around Annunciation Church and everybody there. And I just want you all to know how important this community is. You know, this is the place where people go and give blood. It is where the very Jewish side of me got a Christmas tree. It is where Girl Scouts and sports teams, it is our entire community. And so when something like this happens, it is not just South Minneapolis, it is Richfield and in Bloomington and the whole metro. And we join in our grief communities around the country that have been here before, that have been shocked and wrecked and have said this is unimaginable, and now it is imaginable because we keep letting it happen. Communities around the country that have been here before, that have been shocked and wrecked and have said this is unimaginable, and now it is imaginable because we keep letting it happen. Enough is enough. We cannot become numb to this. We cannot become numb. We cannot have people say, there's nothing else we can do. Red flag laws don't work. Anything doesn't work. That is not true. And there is more we can do. Today, we are talking about a school and a church, but we know across the country it is a school and a church and a concert and a grocery store and a movie theater and just going to work. Everyday people need to be safe doing everyday things. That's right. In Minnesota, we have been working hard to get this done, and we know that there's more to do, and we need elected officials, we need communities, we need everybody to demand this, because no longer can any elected official say, we will not take care of the guns that are killing our kids. No longer. And we know that this is not a uniquely Minnesota issue. It is a national issue. And as our Congresswoman Omar said over and over again and has said, we need a national solution. So we are going to get to work here in Minnesota. We have been getting to work. Behind me, whether it's Representative Frazier, Representative Moeller, and many others that my colleague Senator Mohammed mentioned, have been working night and day, years after years. And we are going to get it done, but what we know is Washington has to solve this problem with us. Yes. So I just want to leave you with the words that the principal of Annunciation said yesterday, because I think it is indicative of our path forward. He said a proverb. He said, when you pray, move your feet. Move your feet. And we are here today. We are here with community, we are here with families and parents, we are here with people across the state of Minnesota and elected officials at all levels of government to move our feet together. And that means moving our feet to ban assault weapons, to ban high-capacity magazines, to improve and increase the things we are doing to ensure that never again do people have to feel unsafe? Do kids have to worry and shelter in place? And we can and need to continue to say never again, because we need to make that a reality together. And so please, let me introduce from Protect Minnesota, Maggie Emery, because it is the families and the advocates on the front lines that we do this work with. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Maggie Emery. I'm the Executive Director of Protect Minnesota, which is the only state-based, statewide gun violence prevention organization in our state. I stand here today, once again, angry and heartbroken. In 2.5 years in this job, I have lost count of the number of times that I've stood in front of a microphone saying that I'm standing here angry and heartbroken, and I am just sick of it. Yet again, our children, our parents, and our teachers and
All right, so you're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. I'm Nick Sturdivant. Right there, you're watching a press conference there. We heard from the mayor, Jacob Fry, there in Minneapolis, Minnesota, gun safety advocates speaking at City Hall following that horrific shooting yesterday in Minnesota. So we want to step aside. We want to take a quick break. On the other side of the break, in just 2 minutes, we have an interview, a guest here in studio that we want to talk about a gala that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. But again, we'll be back in just 2 minutes. Hang on. You're watching Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. All right, welcome back here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus. We are chugging along, Carlene.
Hey, we are chugging along.
It's Friday for you,
It's
so
Friday
it's
for
almost,
me.
but not so fast.
We're almost there. It's not the weekend
We're
yet.
almost done, but we're not done yet.
We got something special first.
We do. We have a special interview. Fitting that, and I realized this morning, and this was not planned at all. The interview was planned, but the anniversary and coordinated with the anniversary was not planned. So 62 years ago was the March on Washington in D.C., a march for jobs and freedom. And fitting because the organization that we have here today, the CEO, the leader of the chapter here, that's what they work towards, empowering folks in our community, jobs, housing, education, helping folks, making an impact on our community. And I got a chance to talk with the Urban League of Central Carolinas last summer. I can't believe it's been a year. So we had to have them back, specifically CEO Robin Lake Hamilton. Thank you for joining us.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, I didn't. Again, the anniversary is perfect for this interview.
It is.
62 years. 62
years. And I often tell folks, when you think about the Voting Rights Act that happened was in 1945 or 1965. We are in a place where, folks are trying to turn back 60 plus years of progress. And so, that always resonates with me, that it's 60 plus years of work to fight for equality. That's what we're trying to turn back. But I'm glad that you said the March on Washington for jobs.
Yeah.
Because a lot of folks never ever really complete that line that, you know, it wasn't just a March on Washington. You know, there was a very specific purpose. And, you know, we often say at the Urban League, you know, it starts with a job. And, you know, because that really does speak to a lot of the other balances in life that we like to pursue.
And I have to shout out Whitney M. Young Jr.
Absolutely. Iconic civil rights leader. Yeah.
National Urban League. And we'll get to, and that's the name, his name is the name of the gala.
Yeah,
the namesake. So we'll get to that in a moment. But for those who are not familiar, you know what? I got a quick story. I got a quick story. I got a quick story. So again, I did the story last year on the workforce development program that you guys are doing. So fast forward, baby. It was like a few months ago. I saw you at the airport.
Okay.
And it was early morning flight, and I wouldn't be like, Robin. And I didn't, because, you know, airport, it can be stressful.
Did I look stressed? Did I look like...
No, you look fine. You were cool. But I was like, I don't know. I don't want to, you know, run up on her. TSA might try to take me out of the airport. So
airport's stressful enough. And then you have Nick Sturman running up to you.
Right. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to keep my distance. And we were far enough away where you didn't see me. Okay. But I saw you. So I just wanted to throw
good. Well, next time, you know, run up. Yeah. Like, next time, run up.
It wasn't a bad story at all. But I was like, I got to go ahead and get that story before we get into stuff too deep. All right, so talk about the work that you guys are doing. So
sure,
it's centered around housing, education, and jobs. And I did the story about the unique workforce program that you guys do. Can you talk about? If folks are not familiar with Urban League, what do you do?
Sure. Thank you for that. So most folks know the Urban League as a traditional civil rights organization, right? And so that was, you know, what the birth and purpose of the league was when it first started. But, you know, I often tell people economic rights is civil rights, right? So very quickly we moved into how do you create options and choices for people. So that's where those pillars come from that you just talked about with, you know, jobs and healthcare and advocacy and justice and housing, the things that are important for people to have a standard of life. And so the work that we focus on around those pillars, this particular Urban League, there are 92 affiliates across the United States, but this particular Urban League, the Urban League of Central Carolinas, we focus on workforce development. And that was just a huge push. Some of them just, you know, work on healthcare, some of them not, but for us, it's workforce development. And back in 2010, the CEO at that time started an HVAC program in partnership actually with Train, which is why this is also an amazing year for that. And it has grown way beyond anyone's expectations of what it can be and what it could do. And as I learned more about the industry, I could see why it did. But, you know, so we have a traditional workforce training where we do some of the trades, some of the construction trades, but primarily HVAC, maintenance tech, electrical is really where we focus. And we also have a certified nursing assistants program, bringing online a pharmaceutical tech program. We also do classes around sort of what we refer to as professional classes, so understanding Microsoft Office. I believe everybody on the planet should take a customer service class. It's amazing what you learn about yourself and what you learn about, you know, society and that. So, you know, we try to figure out, honestly, what are the labor market needs right now. And so, you know, that's why we were like, how do we find a sweet spot that will speak to that and make sure that we're creating value add in the marketplace. I tell people we are a labor market solutions provider. That's what we do, right? So our focus really is on workforce. And so I'm really excited. We have a great facility that we've built out on the east side that we have already outgrown. And so we have about 80 students that just started 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So I said the same thing. I was like, what? Can we fit 80 people in there? But yeah, we did. So we've got about 80 students that started out for the HVAC and electrical and the maintenance tech program. And then in a couple weeks, we'll have about 15 students starting with our CNA program. But again, if you notice, we specialize in specific things because we want people to have a career. I tell people, don't come to the Urban League for a job. But if you want a career and a path and a strategy, right, then let's talk.
I think about Adrienne Muhammad, who I spoke with last year, and she talked about her nephew and getting her nephew through the program. And so it's not just a one-off. It's you know, somebody in your family may do it, and you may get inspired, and you may want to go through the program.
Right.
And that creates that generational thing where folks are developing careers and it gives them some sort of economic freedom.
Right.
I do want to ask a CEO, because you were recently honored, I say recently, it was pretty recent, honored by Charlotte Business Journal for your work. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What motivates you to keep coming back? Because you have a lot, as a CEO, all eyes are on you. What are you going to get done? What keeps you going?
Yeah, thank you for that. For me, it's not what gets you revved up. I stay pretty revved.
Oh yeah, I figured that out.
I stay pretty revved. So, it doesn't take a lot to do that. I think one thing, I'm always humbled by people who decide to do this work with me. Be like, really? Y'all gonna rock with me on this? Okay. Right? So when I think about the team that we have at the league, that definitely keeps me inspired and keeps me going. The same thing with the board of directors. I'm like, of all the boards you want to hop on, I know you're like, this is not the one I had in mind, but they hang with it. But it really keeps me inspired, as I've been in Charlotte on and off now for about 25 years. And y'all, this is a great community. It really is. I've lived other places. This is a great community, right? It has its issues like any other community. But I've seen what this community can do when it pulls together, creates a priority, and says, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to lift all tides, all boats. So that's really what keeps me going, is I know that this community is worth it. And I always tell people, I am preparing this world. I'm preparing this world for our children, right? Instead of preparing our children for this world, how can we prepare this world to receive our children? So that's really what pushes and drives me.
I have to mention, and look, I don't want to get too far along in an interview without talking about the gala.
Right.
I mentioned it earlier, the Whitney M. Young Jr. Gala 2025, September 12th. At the West End. Let me make sure I get it right.
Yes.
Again, 6 p.m. West End, Charlotte. So the theme is Enchanted Garden. Where did the theme come from? Oh, I guess before we get to the theme, how long does it take to plan the gala? Because there's a lot of moving parts, I can imagine, in planning something so big, and you're honoring folks as well.
Absolutely. So it starts with honoring the folk and figuring out, who are the folks that have really been in this game and haven't wavered. And that's a huge part in honoring Whitney M. Young, is that, we want his namesake, his award, to go to people that have done that. So you think about Linda Lockman Brooks, who I tell people she's like one of the godmothers of Charlotte. Christy Firko, who fearlessly has led, the initiative on appraisers and diverse appraisers without any apologies. And Dave, Regenari, Dave Regnari over at Train, who from the beginning said, we're going to do this thing with the Urban League. And, 15 plus years later, we've pushed almost 600 people through HVAC programs since its beginning. And those are folks, again, that have been unwavering. So it's a great night for us to honor them. It's a great night for us to talk about the work. It's a great time to honor our partners like Novant Health and Frank Emery. And also, Caring, another great not-for-profit that's doing amazing work. And Elijah. Elijah is with Pinnacle, and he is one of our young professionals. And we're also kind of unique, and we make sure that we're elevating our young professionals, because we need to make folks who are excited about, picking up the mantle and keep going. So we're excited to be honoring him. But, the night is a gala, and it's exciting. And I often tell people, really, it's just the time that we get together and come tell the story. Yeah. Like the thing I get the most excited about is when people are going to hear the success stories, right? Because they're not just, I came into the Urban League and this happened to me. It's stories like, a friend told me about the program. I got into the program. Had a young man just the other day tell me that, he he went through the program, but then wound up having to move to New York, upstate, wasn't planning on it, had some things happen with his family. Had his 2 boys. He had such an amazing experience. He found the Urban League up there and sent his 2 boys through the program. Wow. So now, the 3 of them are working this together. And this just happened in the last 4 or 5 years, right? We've got students that have gone on to work at Boeing that are now about to head over international. He's about to do an international stint. There's so much in the story of workforce development and what the Urban League has done, but really what it's done is it's transformed lives, right? Workforce development for us is about transforming lives and creating opportunity for people to take hold of their lives, right? And set forth the path that they want for their family and for their future. And so that's the reason it's so important to us to have a gala. A lot of folks, particularly in this time, this season, galas are where you get your unrestricted funds from.
Right, yeah.
So that's always the issue. It's like, where we get these unrestricted funds from. So that's why these galas are important.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of them in Charlotte, but that's where that happens. So much of the funding nowadays, whether it be federal, whether it be state, it's reimbursable. So you have to put the capital out first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you run the program and then you get the money back.
Yeah.
Right. So, but you got to have the capital to lay out to even run the program. Mm-hmm. So, the gala is a critical part of us, having that unrestricted funds to do the things that, a grant won't cover.
I was just about to ask, what do you see? What does the rest of 2025 look like? Mm-hmm. What does next year look like? I'm sure you guys are mapping that out right now.
We are, but oof.
I know that's a lot. I'm sorry, that's a lot to ask.
No. Well, I can tell you, as usual, the next 90 days, we are growing so fast as an organization, from 7 to 22 employees in a year and a half. I mean, it's just, we're growing. We went from 1.7 in revenue. We'll be 4.4 this year. Wow. Yeah, we're growing, and we haven't even gotten started. Probably the next big thing that's happening is, we're in the process of starting an HVAC company. Mm-hmm. And so we're excited about that. So this is the season that not-for-profits have to start thinking about different revenue sources. So, and diversifying your revenue source. And so we think the path is obvious with earned revenue through HVAC. I mean, heck, we have the talent, right? Mm-hmm. So let's figure out how we can put that talent to work. And so talking to companies about how we can come in and be a part of it. So that's going to be a huge undertaking. Our board just finished a strategic plan where, we're focused on, not just, the vitality of the organization and its mission, but, how does that transfer into community? I often tell people you can't have this long list of what everybody else should do and you're not doing it. So, why don't we have a company? Why aren't we doing the things that people are trying to do to have economic stability? Then we need to be an example of that. Do
you ever take a second to take a breath, take a beat at all? Because I feel like there's a lot. There's a lot that
you hear the snickering in the peanut gallery. No. Yeah, everybody's like, yeah,
it's a heck of a question.
No,
right.
I'm saying this in. I respectfully say this as in because you're on the go so much. You have so much going on, but do you ever take a step back to take a beat and reflect on things going on? Because there's a lot that's happening.
There is, and I'm grateful.
And hopefully I did not offend you with that question.
Oh, no, not at all. I'm laughing because there's been commentary over the past few weeks about me being on vacation and sending emails from Turks and Caicos, but I was
wait. You were sending emails.
Listen, business doesn't stop because Robin's on vacation. Okay, you know what I'm saying? I tell people I'm running a business here, people. Right?
I'll let you continue.
Not-for-profit is simply a tax designation. That's all. So, but what's interesting just about the energy is I'm a big believer in times like this with all the things that's going on. I mean, this is a tough season, but this is also the time that market share can be won and lost around, how do you show up in the marketplace? How can you be competitive? Where can you insert yourself and where could you probably show up as value as you didn't before? So because we're a labor market solutions entity, I tell people we can lower your cost of labor acquisition, right? Yeah. So getting us to see our not-for-profits differently, that's what's important right now. And when things are very sensitive and folks are incensed and a lot of times that's when you're heard. And you're heard very differently. So I think that, I feel compelled to run really hard right now because I think that's important. I think I'm incredibly excited about the work that's going to be done. Like I said, I don't even feel like we've even gotten started. There's so many things that can be done, particularly when I look at my incredible, inspiring colleagues around the United States and the work that they're doing. I'm like, y'all, we're just getting started. So, but really excited about that.
Can folks still purchase tickets? Are tickets still available? Because I've been clicking the link. I see the link. I haven't clicked it yet.
Yeah. So if you go on, you can purchase a ticket, and if you have any problems, you can always call the Urban League. So you know what I'm saying, and we'll make sure that you get that ticket. So but they can always reach out and be that. And I think there's also email on the website as well, which is urbanleaguecc.org, and can purchase tickets and also can purchase still purchase tables and sponsorships. Last year, the first year that I was here, we maxed out the room at 500, moved to another venue, then did like another 550, and I think they just told me they just placed 602 tables down. So we're growing, and again, we want to bring more people into this need of trying to help folks, transform their lives. I know there's a lot of folks out there, just good people out there that just want to help, and we need the help.
Well, that's Robin Lake Hamilton. Thank you so much. You've been so gracious with your time. CEO of the Urban League of Central Carolinas, doing great work in our community. Thank you for stopping by. I had to give you a hard time. I had to tell you a story. I always end with a story or start with a story when it comes to these live interviews.
Of course you do.
That's just me.
It's the Nick show.
That's just
It's
me.
the Nick show.
We're
right.
just living in it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Tickets still available. Still available. If you want to be a sponsor, that's still available. Again, the Whitney M. Young Jr. Awards Gala taking place Friday, September 12th at 6 p.m. at the Westin Charlotte. Should be a great time. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, so we wanted to take 2 minutes away. We want to take a break, take a beat. We want to take a beat. We'll be back in 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.
All right, welcome back. Switching gears here. It's top of the hour, 3:01. Julie Kay here. And we're going to get a check of your forecast because it has been a beautiful couple days so far and into your weekend. Brittany Van Voorhees is here. Brittany, this is the nicest I think it's felt the entire time I've lived in Charlotte. It's real nice.
Yeah, I was about to say, I can't remember when you moved here.
I got here a year ago. I feel like it's been super hot or freezing cold every day of my life.
Yeah, spring was definitely warm. So yeah, it might be comparatively for the time of year because of the fact that it is definitely cooler than average. We've had lower dew points the last few days. As a curly-haired girl naturally myself, it's been great to get a break from the frizziness that has just been kind of dousing us all summer long. We had the second warmest July on record, and then we were really wet and cold to start off August, so it is nice to finally have nice weather to contend with. Now, the good news is that the nice weather is going to continue as we get closer to the weekend, and it's a big weekend because it is Labor Day weekend, and it is also, on Monday, the official start of meteorological fall. I know myself and Brad, Chris, we talk about this a lot, but remember that meteorologists, we go fall by 3-month periods. So for data keeping, record keeping versus, the astronomical seasons that can sometimes start on the 19th, sometimes the 20th, sometimes the 21st. So we're officially about it. So we do everything officially. So September 1st for us, first day of meteorological fall, and it has felt like it the last few days. Temperatures right now at 82. Dew point is not quite as low as it was yesterday when it was in the upper 40s, but it's still in the 50s, so it still feels very comfortable outside. As we get closer to the weekend, we'll see a small, slight increase increase in humidity by Sunday. When I say small, I mean we're not talking peak of the summer, but it will feel slightly stickier, especially Sunday night. That will be because a cold front's moving through. It will not be a lot of rain, but we will see a small chance of rain. And then we're actually looking a lot nicer for Labor Day and beyond into next week. So I would say that we're getting fall now, maybe a slight increase in humidity, and then another nice little shot there by the weekend. I've shown this graphic for days now because I love it. It is perfect during the summertime when it feels disgusting and the faces are all shocked and sad and scary. But now it smiles all around, which is always a nice change. Satellite and radar across the Carolinas showing more clouds today, which was expected because of that. Temperatures weren't quite as cool this morning. We were at 63 was the official low versus 59 yesterday morning. So again, not quite as cool, but still pretty nice. The rest of the day we're nice and quiet, dry-wise. Tomorrow we will see more sunshine. So I think Friday will actually be the only day that the high will probably be close to normal in the mid-80s, but it will still feel nice outside. 7 o'clock, I paused this here because big game tomorrow. Charlotte 49ers are at Bank of America Stadium against another local team, App State. So it is going to be a great Friday for some college football, nice little kickoff to the weekend. I'm excited to see because guess what? Whoever wins, I always cheer for the local team, so right, it doesn't matter either way. It's mostly sunny, mostly sunny in the afternoon, and then quiet and calm again heading into the evening. Here's the Labor Day weekend forecast. Again, we will bring in a 20% chance of rain, but it's not much. It's not a lot of rain, which of course is always good news. Temperatures will hover upper 70s to lower 80s. Update here on the tropics. We got to talk about it. 20% chance of development, a tropical wave that has not yet come off the coast of Africa, so it's thousands and thousands of miles away. But since we are in the busiest 7 to 8 weeks of hurricane season, the peak is normally between August 20th and October 10th, with the historic peak on September 10th. Just a time of the year that we always talk about the tropics. In fact, this morning I did an interview with the National Hurricane Center's morning coordination meteorologist. We were talking a lot about Hurricane Katrina and the 20-year anniversary, which Brad and Tim will be talking about tonight on Live Weather Impact, but also Brad participating in a really, really, really heartfelt, emotional, but also fantastic special that we'll be running tomorrow, of course, on Katrina on the actual official 20-year anniversary. But with Robbie and I talking, that's the warning coordination meteorologist for the NHC, he did make a good point that even when nothing is happening, we still have to keep our eyes on what is, going on, or whether it's there or not, because it's just that time of the year. So I think it's a good reminder to still remember what calendar date we're on, which is August 28th, which means we still got a few months to go. 7-day forecast, again, looks fantastic. Nothing tropical related to worry about. No tropical moisture, no tropical storms, no hurricanes, but a lot of nice weather over the next week. Unofficial forecast here, but I do think we're going to struggle to get to 90 again before the end of the year. As you look at the extended forecast, which right now lasts until September 7th, I see no 90s. The average latest 90-degree day of the year is September 12th. So as the 7-day and the 10-day forecast gets closer and closer to that number, and we see temps getting further and further away from 90, there's a better chance that we might not see 90 again. I'm not saying it for sure, because the latest ever was October 13th, but this is definitely a very nice, consistent, cooler and drier stretch over the next 10 days. So after a warm spring and a warm summer, you're welcome.
That is some good news. I also really enjoyed the smiley face graphic, so thank you.
It's great.
And we'll be on the lookout for that Katrina special as well. Brittany, thank you so much. We're going to switch gears here because I know that Minneapolis, we're getting an update from officials. So let's listen in to officials here.
Police officer in a regular uniform with no helmet, no SWAT gear, ran into the church and was met by a parishioner who directed him towards where the gunman had been. The parishioner later told me that was the first time that he, the children and others there, had any sense that they might be safe and survive. The members that responded yesterday exemplified the motto that is on the Minneapolis police squad cars: to protect with courage and to serve with compassion. All of our law enforcement partners, first responders, and many children, members of the school staff, and parishioners of Annunciation Catholic Church all showed incredible courage yesterday in the face of unspeakable horror. As the investigation continues, we will continue working alongside our county, state, and federal law enforcement partners as we continue to be critical as we piece together exactly what happened. At this time, we have identified a total of 20 victims that had injuries resulting from gunfire, including the 8- and 10-year-old who were killed yesterday. 15 of the injured are children between the ages of 6 and 15. 3 of those injured are adults in their 80s. Those who remain hospitalized need all of our support as we continue to pray for a speedy recovery for all of our victims. During the processing of the scene at Annunciation Church yesterday, 3 shotgun shells were recovered, along with approximately 116 rifle rounds. 1 live round was recovered from a handgun that appears to have malfunctioned as the shooter attempted to use it and became stuck in the chamber. There were 4 search warrants that were executed yesterday. 1 at the church, the others were executed at residences believed to be associated with the shooter. One of those residences was in the city of Minneapolis, a second one was in Richfield, and a third one was in St. Louis Park, which are both bordering municipalities. Additional evidence was recovered as a result of these warrants. Literally hundreds of pieces of evidence have been recovered thus far, which include electronic devices that will be further searched and processed. It now becomes our job collectively with all of law enforcement to process that evidence. And so this investigation will continue, and we will follow all of the evidence to its logical conclusion. I am aware, however, that this may not ultimately provide the answers that our public is looking for. When something terrible happens, the public expects law enforcement to provide some explanation for what happened. But the reality is, this is an unthinkable, completely senseless act. Violence perpetrated against children worshiping at Mass. And no investigation, no evidence will ever be able to make sense of such an unthinkable tragedy. That being said, we will do our best to determine and identify a specific motive. What we have seen so far is this is an individual who, unfortunately, like so many other mass shooters that we have seen in this country too often and around the world, had some deranged fascination with previous mass shootings and very disturbing writings that demonstrate hatred towards many different individuals and different groups of people. And he fantasized about the plans of other mass shooters. Unfortunately, again, this has become all too common in our society. That being said, we know ultimately the purpose of the shooter's actions was to obtain notoriety for the shooter themselves. That being said, I have only said the name of this shooter once, and I'm asking members of the media to stop saying the shooter's name. That was the whole purpose of why he did this heinous act, to obtain that notoriety for themselves. As schools in our city are beginning to start this week and next, we are working with all of our law enforcement partners, county sheriffs, state troopers, and surrounding municipalities that are helping the city of Minneapolis as we step up police presence both in and around schools and around all of our houses of worship in the city. Many of our law enforcement partners are also supplementing patrols, and we could not be more grateful. This has truly been a collective effort in partnership with our community. We also must say that we will be forever in debt to all of the doctors, nurses, and paramedics who responded, who are caring for these victims in this incident. I cannot tell you how incredibly grateful we are for all of the love and support that has been pouring in from all around the country, both for the first responders who initially responded, entered that church, and dealt with the unthinkable, and for all of the victims and families that have received that love and support as well. The Minneapolis Police Department and our community have a long road ahead of us to heal, and we need everyone to continuing to show their support after the cameras once again leave this city. I'd like to invite up the Acting United States Attorney for the District of Minnesota, Joe Thompson.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Thompson. I'm the acting United States Attorney for the District of Minnesota. Yesterday, Minnesota was attacked. It was an attack, first and foremost, on our children and our families, an attack at a school and in a place of worship. It was also an attack on our city, our state, and our country. The U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI, ATF, and other federal law enforcement are working with state and local partners to investigate this heinous act. Our investigation is twofold. First, we are seeking to confirm what we believe to be true, which is that the shooter acted alone and that no one else was involved, that the threat died with the shooter yesterday. We believe that to be true, but we'll leave no stone unturned to ensure the safety of our community. Second, we are investigating the motive, why and how this happened. The shooter left behind hundreds of pages of writings that describe the shooter's plan, writings that describe the shooter's mental state, and more than anything, writings that describe the shooter's hate, pure, indiscriminate hate. The shooter expressed hate towards almost every group imaginable. The shooter expressed hate towards black people. The shooter expressed hate towards Mexican people. The shooter expressed hate towards Christian people. The shooter expressed hate towards Jewish people. In short, the shooter appeared to hate all of us. The shooter's heart was full of hate. There appears to be only one group that the shooter didn't hate, one group of people who the shooter admired. The group were the school shooters and mass murderers that are notorious in this country. The shooter idolized some of the most notorious school shooters and mass murderers in our country's history. I won't name them, just like I won't name the shooter. They don't deserve to have their names remembered. As I said, the shooter left behind hundreds of pages of writings. There is a lot to digest, and we'll know more in the coming days and weeks as we've had an opportunity to go through them. But reading them, one thing is clear, and it's going to be hard to hear, but it's important to the question of why this happened. More than anything, the shooter wanted to kill children, defenseless children. The shooter was obsessed with the idea of killing children. The shooter saw the attack as a way to target our most vulnerable among us while they were at their most vulnerable at school and at church. I won't dignify the shooter's words by repeating them. They are horrific and vile. But in short, the shooter wanted to watch children suffer. Yesterday was a tragedy for this city and our state. My heart goes out to the entire Annunciation community. Their loss is unimaginable. I want the state of Minnesota to know that when a tragedy like this occurs, we all stand together. Federal, state, and local law enforcement work together side by side. The FBI, the ATF, the BCA, Minneapolis Police Department, the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office, the Hennepin County Attorney's Office, including their victim advocates who have been working with the families yesterday and today. The list goes on. This has been a tough summer for Minnesota, but I take heart knowing that we all stand together in confronting this evil. Thank you. I'll turn it back to Chief O'Hara.
A little bit up for some questions and answer what we can.
The FBI Director Kash Patel put out some details today, including that there was a threat against President Trump, that there were some messages such as Israel must fall and free Palestine, and that it is being investigated as a hate crime. There's evidence of a hate crime. Can you speak to what the FBI Director put out?
Well, I haven't talked to Director Patel, but certainly there's evidence of hate. As I mentioned, the shooter expressed hate towards many groups, including the Jewish community and including President Trump. So obviously, as in most cases where there's a mass shooting at a house of worship or a school, Federal law enforcement will work with state and local law enforcement to investigate to make sure what happened. We know what happened and we prosecute as appropriate.
I would just add to that, Matt, that there is no question in this case that this shooter intended to terrorize the children, the school members of the school community, the parishioners were inside of that church. So whatever label we want to put on it is regardless of the fact that it is very clear that this shooter had the intention to terrorize those innocent children. Sorry.
One of the manifestos, I guess, mentions a belief that the shooter was under an FBI investigation. Is anyone able to say whether or not that's true, or whether this person showed up on any watch list or any federal radar at all?
Yeah, we did a check of all of our holdings, the FBI holdings, and he was not in our holdings prior to this incident, so we didn't have anything on him at that time.
Okay. And is there any kind of mental health diagnosis that anyone is aware of?
There is no diagnosis that I'm aware of that I can share. I can tell you we are not aware of any state-ordered mental health commitments for this individual.
Chief, could you talk about, we're hearing some new details come out about the moments inside the church.
Yes.
About the doors being locked.
Yes.
Protecting some of these. Could you talk to us about that?
So the question was about the doors being locked at the church. Annunciation Church had a practice that once Mass began, they locked the doors of the church. This incident occurred shortly after the Mass was beginning. So there's no question that the fact that the doors were locked likely saved additional lives. At the same time, we also know that the shooter intended to barricade and did barricade the doors on the same side of the church where the shooting occurred. So what's particularly heinous and cowardly about this is these children were slaughtered by a shooter who could not see them. He was standing outside of the building, firing through very narrow church windows on the level where they would line up with the pews. And even ultimately, when he got to the rear of the church, was an entryway that's basically all glass, and fired out the window where a person could walk in, ultimately did not walk in. Yes.
When you say doors were locked, is that from the inside or from the outside? Like you're inside and you can get out, but you can't get in from the outside?
The question is about the doors being locked. Yes, the doors were locked intentionally by the church from the inside, and that's a practice that they had in place once Mass had begun.
I know, yes, that
his social media postings, Trump post, admiration for previous school shooters. Why was he able to obtain a weapon of that magnitude?
So the question was, due to previous social media posts, why was the individual able to obtain a weapon? We have nothing in the evidence that we have acquired so far that would indicate that he is a person that he did not lawfully purchase these weapons. He did not have a criminal history. The only thing that we are aware of is a traffic ticket. He did not have any state-ordered commitments for mental health. So of everything that we have seen so far, it did not rise to the level where he would have been a person prohibited from purchasing a firearm. Yes, Uba.
Confirm if the shooter went to the church weeks prior, and if so, how long before the shooting happened?
So Uba's question was if the shooter did go to the church weeks prior. We cannot specifically confirm that at this time, but that is obviously a part of the investigation.
Even though those are all about the connection, his connection to the church and school.
Yep. So the question was the connection of the shooter to the church and school. We do know that the shooter did attend Mass there previously. The shooter did attend school. And the shooter's mother was an employee of the parish previously for some time. So obviously there is a connection between that shooter and this particular parish and this school there.
Chief, what can you tell us about the 20th victim that you mentioned, another victim you mentioned today? How is that child doing?
So there's one additional child that was injured by gunfire that we weren't aware of at the time of the last briefing. They were transported by private vehicle to a hospital outside of the city, and the report was actually made to police after they had been treated and released. So the injuries to the children range from, in this case, I guess you'd call like a graze wound from gunfire, all to, again, some very serious life-threatening injuries. We have some victims that have been released by the hospital at this time. We anticipate perhaps a few more today, but we still have some victims who are very seriously injured and in critical condition.
Even though there's no criminal record,
Sorry.
even though there's no criminal record, have you been able to find any police contacts where there was odd behavior, maybe that didn't rise to the level of a crime, but in any jurisdiction that's come up?
So the question was police contacts with odd behavior. There's nothing in Minneapolis where we did not have previous police contacts with him.
Is there anything more you can say today on the name change issue? I know that yesterday you didn't confirm that, but I know it's out there.
Yes.
Is there anything more you can reveal just about?
So the question was about the shooter's name change. We are aware that a few years ago, I think 2019, the shooter did have their name changed. We can confirm that, yes.
I know you kind of asked it in the FBI spokesperson talking about it too. Had any law enforcement you found made contact with the shooter's family previously to what happened yesterday?
I can try. For everybody, I'm Drew Evans, Superintendent of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. It depends on specifically what you're asking. We're aware of some reports in the past. We are gathering those reports now. There will be additional information that we'll be able to share down the line. But as the chief noted, and we think what is important in this and related to the question, this individual was not arrested for anything that would prohibit them from being able to purchase a firearm. There is not substantive police contact with this individual that would have raised concern to the level that would lead us to believe this sort of a situation would happen today. The social media, in terms of your question for that, just to be clear, the level set for everybody, there's a specific criteria in terms of how an individual can purchase a firearm legally in Minnesota. If those posts and information, I'll share it for everybody that we want to know go forward, this obviously is a terrible tragedy. We need the help of the public and everybody else. If there's concerning social media behavior by anybody, or that there's concern in their community, that they are contacting their law enforcement so that we can adequately address that in the process. That did not happen in this case.
So in terms of the evidence found with the search warrants, were you able to recover additional guns, and if so, were those registered and also legally purchased?
So the question was, in regard to the search warrant, were additional weapons recovered? The answer is no. Only the 3 weapons that were recovered at the scene, a 5.56 millimeter rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol, and all 3 were used during this incident.
Chief, any history of gun training? Because the shooter seemed fairly accurate.
We're not aware of, at this time, any history of gun training.
In the evidence that you have recovered, has the shooter expressed any grievance against that particular church?
No, we haven't found anything. So the question was any specific grievance against the church. We mentioned there is a connection to the parish, a connection to the school, but we have not identified a triggering event or a specific grievance against the church that you could point to say this is the reason for why this happened.
Chief, I just want to clarify something you said. You said that the shooter attended Mass in the weeks before the shooting.
I did not say that. So the question was, did the shooter attend Mass in the weeks before? We know that previously the shooter had attended that parish and had attended that school when they were younger.
Is there anything, any evidence that this person was radicalized or part of some online groups or anything like that that would have inspired this behavior?
No. So the question was if the individual was radicalized, I guess, for a specific cause or a part of some online groups. And the answer is no. We have not found evidence of that, other than, again, just this fascination in general with many, many different previous mass shootings, mainly in this country, but also some from around the world.
Chief, any evidence to indicate why this particular church, just to kind of follow up on what others asked, why this particular church was chosen as the somewhere else?
So Matt's question is the question, why this particular church? And other than the obvious, which we have said, the connection to being from that church, being from that school, mom having worked there, we have not found a specific trigger for why to target the children at this church.
On that note, though, did the shooter seem aware that there was going to be this Mass at this time, that the kids would be there at that time?
So
Other than the obvious that they showed up and shot.
Yeah. So the question was, was the shooter aware of this mass at this church? The answer would be yes. This was a daily mass, but this was special in that the children were attending to celebrate the first week of school, the beginning of a new school year.
Chief, are you able to give us an update? I know we heard this from HCMC this morning on the injuries. Who's hospitalized, how many, severity, and you did mention that you expect some of the kids to be released.
So the question was total number of victims who remain hospitalized. I do not have information that would have to come specifically from the individual hospitals. Again, I know that some victims have been released, and I believe HCMC mentioned at their press conference earlier that they anticipate a couple more may be released today. But I know both at HCMC as well as Children's Hospital that there remain patients who are in critical condition.
You've had more than 24 hours to kind of absorb this and kind of process this. Your thoughts on this and kind of move forward where we are right now?
So the question was, over the last 24 hours, for my thoughts on where we are and moving forward. I think we had dozens of police officers that responded, that entered there. I shared a story that one parishioner had shared with me of the relief they had seeing an officer running in towards the danger. And I know from dozens of officers who did respond that ran into the church and saw the unthinkable with all of these children so seriously injured, and other children that had blood on them, from not because they were injured, but because of blood that was shared from other kids. And just how confusing it was for the officers, because no one knew if there was specifically just one shooter, if there were perhaps improvised devices that were there to go off. So I think the officers, and that were then joined by state troopers and county sheriff's deputies and all of federal law enforcement officers and others that responded very, very quickly, and I just think did an incredible job at trying to ensure that the threat was eliminated, there were no additional threats, but also trying to triage as quickly as possible and get the injured to the hospital. And I think EMS, all the first responders, did an amazing job. And I think going forward, we're going to learn countless stories about many children and the heroic acts that children there did, as well as staff members and other parishioners. So I know this is, incredibly horrific and just an unthinkable situation, but despite all of that, I think there's going to be countless lessons of bravery from young children all the way up to elders in our community.
All right, we'll take one more, perhaps from somebody who's not yet had a chance.
Chief, have you
Is that you?
Have you guys spoken with the shooter's parents, and have they said anything about past mental health history? And do you guys as law enforcement believe there might have been any red flags that might have been missed?
Okay. So the question was, have we spoken to the shooter's parents and if there were any red flags that may have been missed? I know there were dozens of interviews that have been conducted with relatives, friends, associates of the shooter, as well as people, obviously individuals, witnesses that were present at the scene yesterday. I know we have not been successful in talking to the shooter's mother yet at this time, but there continue to be efforts made to get that done.
But you have talked to the father?
I cannot confirm that. I don't know. There's been. You have. Okay.
Did he live alone, or did he live with his father?
Well, the question was, did he live alone or live with his father? There's 3 residences that are associated with this individual. I can't verify right now which residence he was staying at immediately prior to the shooting, but that's obviously something that will come out with the investigation as it continues.
Just out of curiosity, what was your question?
Can you say how long the shooter attended the school for? What grades?
I don't know. Yeah. So the question was, how long did the shooter attend?
There's no high schoolers.
Okay. But I don't know the period of time exactly.
Is there surveillance video available, not that we want to see it, but that you can review to know like how long he was shooting and how he snuck up
Yep.
and stuff?
So the question was, is there surveillance video? And the answer is yes, there's surveillance video at the church. That's how we know for sure he did not enter and did not fire at all from inside the church.
And do you know how long the shooting took place?
We will know that for sure. The question was, how long did the shooting take place? So the first call to 911 was...
Or I just mean like the shots being fired for how many seconds
Yes.
or minutes? Yeah.
Yes, we will be able to figure that out. We will be able to pinpoint that.
Thanks
Yes.
so much for your time today. We are quite hot. Thank you, Chief.
Okay.
We've got a lot more yet to get done today. So I appreciate, again, your partnership in helping us get these messages out. Thank you.
In the interest of not saying the shooter's name, do you have guidance on pronouns given the name change?
I would leave that up to each agency that has to speak publicly.
All right, you've been listening to a press briefing from police in Minneapolis on this mass shooting that impacted a Catholic church and school, and multiple kids died, multiple injured. We got an update on some of those victims. We know multiple people have been released from the hospital, multiple people, though, still in critical condition. And again, the majority of those 17 injured are children. A lot of those questions that we heard, though, were about the motives of the shooter, the reasoning behind this, if any, and we got a little bit more clarity on the background of the shooter. You heard multiple reporters asking about the history, the criminal history of the shooter, why none of the social media posts that you may have seen from the shooter were flagged, and police said there's no previous interaction other than, I believe, a traffic violation that would have led them to this, that would have stopped this shooter from purchasing a gun. Now, multiple sources today, of course, are responding to this attack. We got some information from the White House today, so we're going to check in with the press briefing from Caroline Leavitt and see what she had to say about multiple topics, but I know she did touch on this shooting in particular.
Good afternoon. Good to see all of you. I want to begin today's briefing by addressing the horrific shooting that took place yesterday at the Annunciation Catholic Church in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where a deranged shooter opened fire during morning mass, killing an innocent 8-year-old and 10-year-old. 14 other children and 3 adults were also injured during this horrible tragedy. This was the first morning mass of the school year for these beautiful, innocent children, and this sacred religious service was desecrated by an evil monster. We are all eternally grateful to the heroic law enforcement officers and first responders whose courage and swift response aided all of those impacted by this horrible tragedy. As Director Kash Patel confirmed yesterday, the FBI is currently investigating this shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. President Trump signed a proclamation yesterday following his call with the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, acknowledging the victims and their families and directing flags to be flown at half-mast. President Trump and the First Lady encouraged the entire nation to join all of us in praying for the victims and their families as they face unimaginable grief and loss. The White House and the FBI will continue to provide further updates as they become available. I also have a quick scheduling announcement for you today. The President will travel to New York City on September 22nd to address the United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday, September 23rd. On another matter, as Americans make their Labor Day weekend travel plans, they will be able to enjoy 5-year low gas prices thanks to President Trump fully unleashing American energy dominance. President Trump ended Joe Biden's Green New Scam policies and is delivering on his promise to make America affordable again. These savings at the pump are giving everyday American families more room in their budgets at the end of each month, which is the exact opposite of what we saw under the previous administration. And as we commemorate Labor Day this year, we finally have a president who fights and delivers for the American worker every single day. President Trump believes that American workers are the heart and soul of our economy and our national identity, which is why he's championed an agenda that puts them first always. For decades, the hardworking working men and women of our country who built the greatest nation in world history were sold out by selfish, greedy, short-sighted globalists who put our country on a path to economic and cultural ruin. They hollowed out our factories and towns and betrayed the American working class by shipping jobs overseas and importing millions of low-wage migrants to replace American workers. Under President Trump, this national disgrace is over. American workers are, once again, being put at the center of national trade policy, and the dignity of American labor is being defended. As a result, President Trump has already brought in nearly $10 trillion in new private and foreign investments so that the top businesses in the world can create high-paying jobs in America and hire American workers to fill them. In fact, since President Trump took office, the economy has added more than 500,000 new jobs to the workforce. In a stark reversal from the Biden administration, all of that job creation has been driven by private sector growth, and all employment gains have gone to native-born Americans. Wages for blue-collar workers are now rising at the fastest rate in the past 60 years. And the average American worker has already seen a $500 wage increase this year alone. Thanks to the largest middle tax cuts ever signed into law by President Trump, with no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, Americans in all 50 states will keep more of their hard-earned money. The average American taxpayer will see a tax cut of nearly $4,000 because of these pro-growth provisions, according to analysis from the Nonpartisan Tax Foundation. In other news, President Trump continues to deliver on his promise to restore law and order to our nation's capital. Since President Trump's intervention, there have been more than 1,283 arrests right here in the District of Columbia. Total crime in D.C. is down 19%, and violent crime is down 30%. Carjackings in the district are down 67%. Homicides are down 57%. Robberies are down 40%. Motor vehicle thefts are down 32%. And assaults with dangerous weapons are down 23%. And property crime is down 18%. These numbers prove the president's bold actions to make D.C. safe and beautiful again are working, just like he said they would. And that's why on Monday, the president took additional action to sign an executive order taking steps to ensure that cashless bail in Washington, D.C. is eliminated. For too long, D.C.'s reckless cashless bail policies have allowed dangerous criminals to be quickly released, which endangers everyone who lives in and visits our wonderful capital. No cash bail has also foolishly forced law enforcement to repeatedly arrest the same offenders over and over again, only for them to be released back into our nation's capital. This is the definition of insanity, and the president is seeking to end it. He also signed a separate executive order addressing the crime emergency in D.C. by instructing the National Park Service to hire additional United States Park Police officers to support public safety, and directing the U.S. Attorney's Office for D.C. to hire additional prosecutors to focus solely on violent and property crimes. So while liberal Democrats across the country continue to double down on their failed soft-on-crime approach, the American people, including local D.C. leadership, business owners, and residents, are rallying behind President Trump's crime crackdown. According to new polling, 81% of Americans say crime is a major problem in large cities across the country, and a clear majority of Americans believe the president's actions are justified and necessary to reduce crime in these cities. Indu Bhatia, who runs a liquor store a half-mile from the White House here just down the street, is one of those Americans who are grateful for President Trump's public safety push. Indu recently told the New York Post that her store was robbed so many times that they had to spend exorbitant sums of money on security, jeopardizing her family's financial future. But thanks to President Trump's strong action, Indu said, quote, "All of my employees, including me, we feel much safer, and even our customers feel really happy when they walk into our store." And just yesterday, Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser credited President Trump for surging federal law enforcement personnel and said neighborhoods, quote, "feel and are much safer." We thank Mayor Bowser for her cooperation and her willingness to help us make D.C. safe and beautiful. This entire effort has vindicated what President Trump and law and order advocates have been saying for years, and this is our message to Americans in Democrat-run cities nationwide. Decline is a choice. You don't have to live in constant fear of being robbed, raped, or murdered. Your leaders are lying to you, and they have been failing you for decades. The President Trump approach of upholding law and order by letting our brave men and women in blue actually do their jobs to aggressively fight crime works. In just a few weeks, President Trump has done more for D.C. residents than Democrats did in 50 years. And this can be replicated in other crime-ridden cities across the nation. As President Trump has said, all of these elected officials in charge have to do is pick up the phone and ask for the president and the federal government's help. President Trump doesn't care if they are a Republican or a Democrat leader. He wants Americans to be safe and for every law-abiding American citizen across the country to be able to thrive in their city and in their community. With that, I'll take questions. Here in our new media seat today, we have social media influencer, content creator, Brandon Tatum. Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't you kick us off?
Well, Caroline, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. On behalf of everybody that follow me, the millions of people that follow me, I want to say thank you for making the sacrifice and dealing with some of the most disingenuous people on planet Earth at times. I have two questions. The first question is associated with the shooting that occurred the other day, and I want to ask the question of, we know that it's not a gun thing. Any rational person knows it's not a gun thing. We know it's a mental health issue. So I want to know from you, what is President Trump and the White House going to do to address mental health issues around the country associated with these shootings? And the second thing is Chicago. You know, anybody with, and I say, with a connected brainstem knows that Chicago's crime is out of control. And young black men are getting killed, laying dead in the middle of the streets every single day in Chicago. No president has addressed any of these issues. And so what is the White House going to do to address issues in their capacity to deal with the conflict and violence in Chicago?
Sure. Well, to your first question about this shooting in Minnesota, right now, the administration is focused on helping the people of Minnesota. It's been less than a day, of course, since this tragedy happened. We have federal law enforcement on the ground assisting local law enforcement. This investigation is ongoing. There's still a lot of facts to understand about these circumstances, and so we're going to continue to do that. As for Chicago and cracking down on crime, it is a priority of this administration to ensure that American cities are safe again, and I'm so glad that you brought up the crime in Chicago, because we've been seeing the governor of Illinois parading out there saying that there's nothing wrong with Chicago, it's a great place to live, there's no crime there, he doesn't need President Trump's help. Well, I think the residents of Chicago beg to differ, and the statistics beg to differ, and I'll just share a few of those statistics with all of you. For 13 consecutive years, Chicago has had the most murders of any U.S. city. This is J.B. Pritzker's legacy, by the way. For 7 consecutive years, Chicago has had the highest murder rate among U.S. cities with more than 1 million people. In 2024, just last year, Chicago's murder rate per capita was 3 times higher than Los Angeles and nearly 5 times higher than New York City. That's more than double the murder rate in Islamabad and nearly 15 times more than Delhi. Out of Chicago's 147,899 reported crimes this year, that's how many crimes have been reported in Chicago since January 1st. There have only been arrests in 16% of them. These numbers are unacceptable. There have been more illegal guns recovered in Chicago than in New York City and Los Angeles combined. The number of reported motor vehicle thefts last year was more than double the number in 2021. And Chicago has also, just like DC, come under scrutiny over discrepancies in its homicide data reporting. So as bad as these numbers are, perhaps they are even worse. And this is Governor Pritzker's legacy. He should put politics aside. He should pick up the phone and call this president, who would be more than happy to do right by law-abiding American residents in the city of Chicago, and we hope that he will. Gabe, and thanks for being here, Brandon. Gabe.
Carolyn, thank you so much. First on the firing of the CDC director, first,
sure.
Who will replace her? And then also, overnight the White House said that she did not align with the president's agenda. Dr. Menard's attorneys say that she refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts. What specifically did she do wrong?
Look, what I will say about this individual is that her lawyer's statement made it abundantly clear themselves that she was not aligned with the president's mission to make America healthy again. And the secretary asked her to resign. She said she would, and then she said she wouldn't, so the president fired her, which he has every right to do. It was President Trump who was overwhelmingly reelected on November 5th. This woman has never received a vote in her life, and the president has the authority to fire those who are not aligned with his mission. A new replacement will be announced by either the president or the secretary very soon, and the president and Secretary Kennedy are committed to restoring trust and transparency and credibility to the CDC by ensuring their leadership and their decisions are more public-facing, more accountable, strengthening our public health system, and restoring it to its core mission of protecting Americans from communicable diseases, investing in innovation to prevent, detect, and respond to future threats. That's the mission of the CDC, and we're going to make sure that folks that are in positions of leadership there are aligned with that mission.
And briefly on another topic, alligator Alcatraz. Last week, a judge on an environmental concerns lawsuit said that the administration had 60 days to wind down operations there, or state officials did. Now, the administration has not been shy in fighting back against what it calls activist judges, but why is it backing down this time?
We're not backing down. We've always said that we are going to continue to fight in the court of law for what's right, because we know that what this administration is doing with respect to all policy, but also immigration policy, is above the books, and we're abiding by our nation's immigration laws. And we think it's despicable that an activist judge has inserted themselves in this migrant detention facility to the point where DHS is now having to relocate these illegal immigrants to other detention facilities around the country. That is an unnecessary burden on the Department of Homeland Security and these agents who should be removing these criminals from our community. That's what the American people elected this president to do. So we've always maintained, Gabe, we're going to comply with court orders, but we're also going to fight back on them on the merits of the law. And DHS is in compliance while we disagree with this decision, and we'll continue to fight it in court. Let's go to...
Hey,
go ahead.
Thanks so much. So just following up on the CDC firing.
Sure.
Are you anticipating other changes there at CDC in addition to that firing? And is the administration going through in a very sort of organized fashion? Is there a task force that's going through high-level appointees to see who is or isn't aligned with the mission? Like, should we expect more changes?
Not to my knowledge. I understand there were a few other individuals who resigned after the firing of Ms. Monarez. One of those individuals wrote in his departure statement that he identifies pregnant women as pregnant people. So that's not someone who we want in this administration anyway. So if people are not aligned with the president's vision and the secretary's vision to make our country healthy again, then we will gladly show them the door.
Caroline, can I just
go to the back?
Thank you, Caroline.
Go behind you, Andrew. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. The military deployment that President Trump has sent to the Caribbean Sea close to the shores with Venezuela is massive. It's much more that is needed to simply counter narcotics operations. Is President Trump considering launching military strikes to military installments or facilities in Venezuelan soil?
I won't get ahead of the president with respect to any military action or questions about that ever. But what I will tell you is that many Caribbean nations and many nations in the region have applauded the administration's counter-drug operations and efforts, and the president is prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. And as I've said from this podium before, the Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. Maduro is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this drug cartel. He has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into our country, and it is the utmost responsibility of this president and this administration to prevent the illicit flow of drugs into our country and to protect citizens from those deadly poisons. Reagan.
Thanks, Caroline. I have two questions for you.
Sure.
Democrats, including former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey, attacked prayer and pushed gun control in the aftermath of yesterday's shooting. What's the White House's response to their comments?
Yes, I saw the comments of my predecessor, Ms. Psaki, and frankly, I think they're incredibly insensitive and disrespectful to the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church, it's utterly disrespectful to deride the power of prayer in this country, and it's disrespectful to the millions of Americans of faith. And I would encourage Ms. Psaki to pray for these families themselves who need it right now more than ever.
My second question for you is that there have been media outlets who have glazed over the fact that the shooter was confused in their gender identity. Does the administration believe that this element needs to be investigated in the shooting?
All of the elements are being investigated in the shooting, absolutely. Which is why part of the reason the FBI director came out and immediately confirmed that facet of the investigation. John.
Thanks a lot, Carolyn. Two questions on two separate issues. First of all, the drone and missile strikes that took place overnight in Ukraine. General Keith Kellogg, the president's special envoy, has described these attacks as egregious. Do you agree with that description, and do you view President Putin as an impediment to getting peace between these two countries?
Well, it's not about if I agree, it's about what the president thinks, and I know what the president thinks because I talked to him about this. He was not happy about this news, but he was also not surprised. These are two countries that have been at war for a very long time. Russia launched this attack on Kyiv, and likewise, Ukraine recently dealt a blow to Russia's oil refineries. They have taken out, as a matter of fact, 20% of Russia's oil refinery capacity over the course of their attacks throughout the month of August. So the president is continuing to watch this intently, and this killing, unfortunately, will continue as long as the war continues, which is why the president wants it to end. And that's why he's worked harder than anyone to end this war, which would have never started if he were president. But perhaps both sides of this war are not ready to end it themselves. The president wants it to end, but the leaders of these two countries need it to end and want it to end, must want it to end as well. And I think the president will make some additional statements on this later.
My second question has to do with, I just had one more, if I may. It has to do with the president's intention to remove Lisa Cook as a member of the Federal Reserve Board. He is going or acting upon allegations that have been made by Trump administration official Bill Pulte. These are just allegations. She hasn't been convicted yet of any crime. Is the administration opposed to allowing Ms. Cook to have due process, to challenge what has been alleged against her?
I believe she is challenging it. I believe she just filed a lawsuit today, and Mr. Pulte has deferred those allegations over to the Department of Justice to investigate them. What I will say is that you had these mortgage receipts very clearly shown to the president, and he has the cause that he needs to fire this individual. He laid it out in the letter that he provided to her and to the public as well. And so we'll continue to fight this battle. Carrie.
Hi, Caroline. So the president just announced that he wants to have a convention right before the midterms next year. The DNC has countered that they too want to have a convention right before the midterms as well. What's the White House's response to that? And can you give us just a little bit of a hint or a tease here as to how the president envisions a convention for the midterms?
Look, the president put out a statement on this earlier today. I'll let him speak further on the plans that he envisions, but I think he's very proud of the accomplishments and the achievements of his administration, as he should be. The most secure border in United States history, a crackdown on crime here in our nation's capital, an attack or a reversal of the attack on our energy industry from the previous administration. As I just pointed out to you, gas prices today, this Labor Day, are the lowest they've been since Labor Day in 2020. Our economy is bringing in trillions of dollars in revenue from all over the world again. So there's so much for Republicans and for the president and for Americans across the country to be proud of, and I think the president wants to see that celebrated. But for any further details on this as they come, we'll provide you with them. Iris.
Thank you, Caroline. Two questions on the shooting. What's the administration's message to some concerned parents across the country who might be now worried about their kids' safety in light of the latest incident?
We completely and totally understand the concerns of parents across the country. This tragedy it's heartbreaking. As a parent myself, there are no words to describe just the the heartbreak that these families must be enduring, which is why the President and the First Lady have encouraged everyone to continue to pray for these families and these victims, and it's why this administration is focused on removing public safety threats from our communities. And in fact, I can share with all of you that last night in Washington, D.C., when arrests were being made, there was an arrest of a juvenile right here in D.C. in Ward 7 for threats to kidnap and injure, receiving stolen property, possession of a large capacity feeding device, unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition. A search warrant was executed, 7 firearms were recovered, and the juvenile was arrested after an investigation was initiated based on social media posts allegedly threatening violence towards a school. So this was a juvenile who was a risk to not just himself but the community here in Washington, and he was removed from the community last night because of the law enforcement efforts of this administration. And I would also point to the statement of our wonderful First Lady that she released yesterday. She wrote, "The tragic mass killing in Minnesota illuminates the need for preemptive intervention in identifying school shooters. Early warning signs are often evident, with many individuals exhibiting concerning behaviors and making violent threats online prior to their actions. We encourage all Americans, as the old saying goes, if you see something, say something. If you see warning signs or threats, report it to law enforcement. This administration, federal law enforcement, will take those reports and those threats seriously. They will be treated as a law enforcement emergency, and we will act accordingly."
And on the First Lady's statement, would the administration consider ramping up resources on these fronts to parents and schools across the country to help them look into these signs and prevent more tragedies?
It's a very fair question, Iris. As for any potential future policy decisions or funding questions, it's just been over 24 hours since this tragedy occurred. Right now we're focused on the FBI and their investigation and uncovering all the facts, and we'll leave those very important policy discussions to another day.